101 ESPN.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it's 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Cardinals are coming, tra-la, tra-la. The Cardinals are going, tra-la, tra-la. On the Nets, tra-la, tra-la. The Cardinals are coming, tra-la, tra-la. Cardinals win again last night. Hi, kids. It's Danny Mack. It's Brooke Grimsley. It's Randy Carricker. Matthew Rocchio is here. Happy Friday, TGIF. How we all doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, especially after that win right now.
Oh, that was what
Cardinals.
a great spectacle
500.
last night by MLB, too.
Yes, that was such a great game. We were texting about it last night. That was just a huge win for baseball in general. Great game, great presentation, atmosphere, tributes, everything. They really hit it out of the park.
Need to do it every year.
Yeah. I agree.
I think they got to find a way to do that every single year, and it was awesome. I thought from the television production side to what you saw in the game, how the players were affected by it in a positive manner. Bob Melvin's interview in-game was, it was emotional for him, and just hearing the stories and the backstories of how many of these players and coaches and managers and people around baseball were connected to Willie Mays' celebration of his life. I just thought it was really well done. I don't think they could have done anything differently in that game to make it any better.
No, I agree. And then the star of the game winds up being an Alabama native, and Brendan Donovan, Dottie Baseball. And the Cardinal kids, I mean, the baby birds, right? Mason Wynn has a couple of runs scored, goes 1 for 2. Burley goes 2 for 3 with 3 runs scored. Gorman has a couple of RBIs on sac flies. Donovan 3 for 4 with 3 RBIs. And Palante pitches pretty darn well as the starting pitcher. Helsley comes on to get the save. And the baby birds are rolling 23-13 now since Mother's Day.
They are rolling right now. But going back to Andre Palante, that's exactly what you needed out of him, honestly. I know that you look at that final line and it's not exciting when you see that, but that's what you needed out of Palante in this situation.
And sorry, Dan, but I think everything's relative here with Palante. He's your 5th starter, and
yes.
if I can get 5 1/3 and 5 runs out of Palante,
he's fine.
Yeah,
it was fine. I mean, it was not great, wasn't awful. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I expect from him.
Yeah, you got innings out of him, and that's what you wanted. I thought the bullpen was really good. Mm-hmm. Now, that's something that stood out. You saw Adam Kloffenstein, and we thought, well, when would he get his feet wet? And I had mentioned it yesterday. Sometimes you just throw somebody in there, and it's Major League Baseball, man. You're up, and if you're up and have a uniform, then you're good enough to play in this league. And so they threw him right in there, and he had a 1-2-3 inning. And then Ryan Helsley now 25 consecutive saves, and he's rolling. I mean, they get to the back end of him being fresh, and he looked fresh last night. That combination of his fastball and his slider is devastating, and it looked to me like he was unhittable last night.
It seems to me like we expect absolute perfection from closers. And I've always argued that, hey, their job is to get the 27th out. And he's gotten the 27th out now 25 times in a row. He's exactly what you want as a closer.
Yeah, and you shorten these games now if you're the Cardinals. You know, the one thing that wasn't good about last night, I guess there is one thing. There's only one black player in the starting lineups.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem for Major League Baseball, and it's been a problem. And I guess if you continue to do these kind of things to expose the game to families and kids, you hope you have a couple of kids that want to play baseball. It's been a problem, though, for Major League Baseball. And last night you saw one black player, and that was Mason Wynn. And you just want to see more. You want to see more of these kids gravitate. At least I do. I want to see them play more baseball. They're playing a lot of football and basketball, and that's the popular sports for kids. But it begs the question: why aren't more black kids playing the game of baseball? And I guess there's a lot of tentacles to that answer. But that was the only bad thing I thought. I just want to see more African Americans playing the game.
And that event last night, that's why it was just so important, because it's so long overdue to really highlight and honor the Negro Leagues in that way. And just to hear all the stories, I mean, Bill Greason, that interview with him. 99 years old, and he was throwing out the first pitch, but also the stories that he was telling. I think it was very important for people to hear that. Reggie Jackson, what an emotional interview that he had with the panel, talking about how hard it was and emotional it was for him to return back to Alabama because of the stories that he had to go through, what he had to actually live through of how the fans were not accepting at that time.
Did you see the Reggie Jackson interview?
Yeah, it was pretty raw.
Ooh, boy. It was, but it was needed to be said.
That's the thing. It needed to be said, and I'm glad that he did. Because Bob Gibson dealt with the exact same issues. I can't imagine ticking off Bob Gibson, but they did, and he was treated like Reggie Jackson was when the Cardinals were in spring training in Florida. That happened, and it would be the same sort of thing. You can't eat here. Well, none of us are going to eat here. Then we'll go elsewhere. You can't stay here. Well, then we'll. And the Cardinals actually wound up buying a hotel, right? Was that the case?
Yes.
So that they could keep the whole team in one place. By the way, to your point, Dan, about black players. In 1985, 25% of all major leaguers were black. Now it's 6%.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with football and basketball.
I agree.
I mean, those kids gravitate towards those sports. It is, for me, I find it staggering when I go by a park and I'm driving by and I see a baseball field and it's unoccupied. I see that all the time. I mean, when's the last time you drove by a park and just kids are playing pickup baseball? You just don't see it anymore.
Everything is organized, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
And here's another part of this is the proliferation of Latin players. We didn't have nearly as many Latin players in 1985 as we have in the major leagues now. Every team has an academy down somewhere in Latin America, and that's where the investment is being made rather than right here in America.
Interesting here. The 636 says because in basketball and football they can go from college or high school straight to the pros, baseball is a bigger commitment. They want a quick payout. I don't know if you're 5 years old, you're thinking about that. I don't think you're thinking about your payout at that point.
Yeah.
I think you're just trying to have fun and play games.
But I think there's also the expense of playing baseball, right? As opposed to you do get a basketball and you can find a court.
Yeah, it's kind of like the golf thing when people say, though, because you can find used equipment. You can find that. In golf, they'll say, well, I can't play golf. It's too expensive. You can get a set of clubs for under $100 and put it in a kid's hands. There are ways to do it. I also think the popularity of the sport has dropped, and therefore the popularity among your young kids watching the games has dropped too, so their interest has dropped, and so you play other sports. I mean, I grew up playing a lot of baseball. I grew up playing a lot of different sports, but we were in the backyard playing wiffle ball, stick ball, cork ball all the time. I mean, literally from sun up to sundown. And when I go by a park now, I just never see kids playing baseball unless it's organized.
Yeah, sorry. How much do you think that travel baseball has affected that? Because we know it's expensive. I hear all the stories of, and it's great because then you get to travel around. I get all that stuff, and the competitive nature I think is good too. But how expensive travel baseball is, how much does that affect things?
It's got to affect it a lot, I would think. And travel hockey affects kids playing hockey, maybe. I mean, it's an expensive sport, that is. I would think that's a big part of it. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids just aren't playing the game.
Cardinals win 6-5. They are now 37-37 as they come home to take on the San Francisco Giants for two more tomorrow and Sunday at the ballpark. And as we mentioned, the Cardinals 10 games over 500 since Mother's Day. So what are the real Cardinals? Are they the Cardinals, the pre-Mother's Day Cardinals? Are they the 37-37, or are they the 23-13? I kind of think 37-37. I think that's kind of what they are. I think 500 is about what they are. If they would fool me and be the team that they've been since Mother's Day, I would really like that. And it is notable to me that for the most part, when the Cardinals are winning games now, it's not because of Arenado and Goldschmidt.
I think that they're a 500 team, but right now, because of the way that things are set up with the third wild card, being 500 maybe is enough to get you that spot.
I think it's wait and see until you get to the trade deadline, and also right now I think they're 500. But if you add a Tommy Edman, a Lars Nootbaar, does Jordan Walker come up in the second half? Adding Contreras will be huge. Do you add a fifth starter or a top-end starter? That would add to it. Do you find bullpen help? Then you're a completely different team. Then I think you're well above 500. But right now, currently constructed, probably a 500 team. You're buying time to get through the fifth starter, which they did with Palante. Kyle Gibson has to miss a start, things like that. They've had some some kicks here in the gut, but getting guys healthy is going to help this team out for sure.
9-game homestand, 2 against the Giants, 3 against the Braves, and then 4 against the Cincinnati Reds before we get to July, which is pretty amazing. And then the Cardinals will go out on the road to Pittsburgh and Washington before getting back into interleague play. The Stanley Cup Finals could conclude tonight in Edmonton. The Florida Panthers at the Edmonton Oilers. Florida leading the series 3-2 after leading it 3-0.
You know, the Oilers started the season 2-9-1, and then they won 26 of 32. They've been down in 2 other series. I don't think you can count them out just yet, and that place will be going bananas tonight. I mean, we say that a lot, and it's kind of cliche. Oh, that place will be going nuts. No, this place will be going nuts tonight in Edmonton. I'd love to see a Game 7. I think it'd be fun for the sport.
I don't know. I feel like the Panthers might close this out. It's probably just because of Matthew Tkachuk. The way that he just really laid things out in that last game, it's hard to really count against the Panthers and what they're doing because of Tkachuk and what he's doing.
Last 30 minutes of that game the other night, it was all Florida. I don't know how the Oilers survived what they did, and I guess it's Connor McDavid, back-to-back 4-point games, and he's taken his game, if he could, to another level. It's just been, I mean, I was reading quotes from other players in the league, and they're like, we've never even seen him play at this level. Like, we didn't think he could get to another level, and he has. He's been unbelievable.
And he's been a playoff monster in the past, but he hasn't taken complete control of a series like this. Even with the second-best player in the league, Leon Draisaitl, on his team, he's still clearly the best guy on the ice, and it's all about being able, if you're Florida, to contain Connor McDavid. You can only hope to contain him.
Dan Patrick over here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, you only hope you can contain him.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. How do you, I mean, McDavid, when he's on the ice, he's the best player in the ice. He's the best player in the world, and he's flying around the ice. I mean, you can try to smother him. That was the one thing the Panthers did in the first couple of games. It was just waves of the lines coming at you, and it was like, it looked like the Oilers couldn't catch their breath. And now it just seems like the series has turned a little bit. They saw some light, got some light out of it, and, you know, they have a chance going into Game 6 tonight.
So we will have it for you here on 101 ESPN. Pregame at 6:30, the action at just after 7 o'clock here on 101 ESPN. Also, J.J. Redick, according to Woj, which means it's right, is the new head coach of the Lakers. Never coached before. He's been a TV guy. I'm interested to see how this works with a team that has LeBron James and Anthony Davis on it.
Don't you think the immediate pressure would be, number one, to win, but number two, how to handle the outgoing years of LeBron?
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting sidebar to this. You know, Jason Kidd did it, had success. Steve Nash did it, did not. It'll be interesting to see how he can, you know, somehow relate to the players, which I'm assuming he could. He's not that far removed, but then be a Pat Riley type. I mean, this is kind of the Lakers going back to the Pat Riley playbook and bringing a guy like this in.
Is it just more being a personality hire at this point?
I could see that. Apparently, they're going to bring in Stan Van Gundy, who's also a personality hire, as his number one assistant, which would be pretty cool.
He better be surrounded by experience.
Yeah.
And I would assume that they're going to make that, mandate that. And I'm sure he wants that to be a part of what's going to happen here.
Guys that he's played with in the past, Rajon Rondo apparently is going to be on the staff as well. By the way, Jeff Van Gundy was already hired by Tyronn Lue, the Clippers' top assistant, so maybe you'll have Jeff and Stan together in L.A.
But if it gets off to a bad start and he's got no experience, L.A. media market, I mean, that's a tough job.
But if it gets off to a bad start, you can always blame LeBron.
Right.
Oh, that will go over well.
And you know what? He may take some of the blame with this being his guy. Really, he wanted him to be hired.
Yeah. And
You know?
Woj talked about the Lakers hiring an elite coaching staff for J.J. Redick. Well, you've already got the one guy under contract, right? Well, presumably, if LeBron stays, he is part of your elite coaching staff.
May I present a conspiracy theory?
Sure, I like those.
Was the podcast a laying of road by LeBron James? Getting J.J. Redick and him in a room for 2 months to just say, here's me and this guy talking X's and O's, and clearly having a rapport about just on the court X's and O's on the board basketball.
Well,
I feel like it might have been a little bit of a long play.
LeBron says he's not interested in doing that, so he doesn't get involved in coaching searches.
Okay. I wonder what David Blatt's doing right now. How did Tyronn Lue end up coaching the Clippers?
Yeah, so David Blatt is not going to be part of this elite coaching staff, is what you're telling me.
I'm sure not. I don't think Mike Brown, despite being a very good defensive coach, is going to find his way back either. Maybe he has.
You always think that with LeBron. I have to. Whenever he's involved with somebody and they wind up as the coach, or whenever there's a coach hired, I presume that he was part of the Darvin Ham hiring and firing.
It's like literally 2 months out, he started talking. How do you game plan for a team with this guy? It's weird.
It is, but he's the king, King James.
Well, if you're going to bring him back, I'd want him to have a say in my coach.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Absolutely, because if he's not happy and not productive, then your team isn't going to be happy and productive.
100%.
All right, we're off and running here on this edition of the Opening Drive on 101 ESPN. Next up, Willson Contreras presumably returns for the Cardinals tomorrow. How should they handle their backup catcher situation moving forward? That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, kids, there's a lot going on at Schnucks, and you need to know about what's going on with Schnucks Rewards because it's pretty awesome. Schnucks Rewards, I talk to you about it all the time, and what they're doing right now is making Schnucks Rewards even better. They've completely refreshed the program to add more personalized touches with new perks for you. Now you'll get personalized savings, and they're basically custom deals on the items that you buy most, and you'll get free freshly baked donuts on your birthday and a free donut every day after the Cardinals hit a home run. It's dingers for donuts. Cardinals hit a home run at night. You go into Schnucks the next morning with your Schnucks Rewards app, and you get a free donut. If you're already a member of Schnucks Rewards, you're going to start seeing these benefits in your Rewards app right away. So it's the perfect time now to sign up if you don't have it, too. Just download the Schnucks Rewards app to get started, and you will really enjoy all the discounts and all the perks that come with being a Schnucks Rewards member. I do all my shopping at Schnucks and have the Schnucks Rewards app. I hope you'll download it and have it this weekend, too. Next time you go shopping, make sure you have the Schnucks Rewards app. Grimsley, Danny Mac, Randy Carricker, the opening drive on 101 ESPN. And the Cardinals AAA farm team last night played the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. And Willson Contreras, in his rehab assignment, went 1 for 3, struck out once and walked once. And it would appear as if he will return, Contreras will return to the Cardinal lineup tomorrow. We know that he's going to be the starter. What happens with the backup catcher situation?
I don't know if seeing that Contreras, when he comes back, I don't know if you just roll him out and say, okay, every game you're back in there coming off a broken arm or whatever it was. I think you're going to need a guy that defensively gives you a little plus back there, and that would be Pages. And I think you still can keep Herrera, because the idea would be then to keep 3 catchers. Herrera could be a DH at times. Pages is truly your backup catcher, and then Contreras is your starter. I guess you can keep 3, maybe not ideal, but then Fermin would go back down to the minor leagues, and that's something I would look forward to if I'm the Cardinals. With
this whole Willson Contreras situation, of course, you don't want that injury to happen, but it kind of gave you a glimpse possibly into the future of this whole catcher role, because we know that Ivan Herrera was supposed to be kind of the heir apparent. That was the whole idea from after Yadier Molina, but of course you bring in Willson Contreras. What happens with Willson Contreras moving forward? Because we know that maybe eventually you look at him in a different position, but after seeing his absence, do you feel comfortable with that moving forward, say that if it's just Pages and Herrera as your catchers?
I signed him to 5 years to catch. I think he stays behind the plate. And I can understand where people would say, well, what happens to Goldie? Then who plays first base? And then there's a trickle-down effect with all this stuff. But Pages, to me, has shown that he's a major league catcher in terms of how he receives the ball. I don't know if I'd want to watch that every day with him hitting. He's had a good little run here. I think time will tell with that. But Contreras would be my catcher, and you got, 3 more years after this season? He'd be my guy.
And I would think that at least this season, and probably next, he'll be your best catcher. He's better defensively than the other two. He improved dramatically before he got hurt defensively, and we know that he's going to be the best hitter of the group.
Oh, he's definitely the best hitter of the group, and Pages is shown that he can hit a little bit, but definitely can catch and throw. I
think that's the biggest thing, is that something I noticed with Herrera, he's been great offensively, pretty good offensively, what you're looking for out of him, but I think one of his biggest issues is his catching abilities. Defensively, he surrendered, I believe, 41 stolen bases.
Can't throw anybody out.
Yeah, that's a big concern that I would have.
And I don't know that he's going to get any better at that. That's the concern. The impression I get from over there at Busch Stadium is that he's really worked hard at it, but he just hasn't gotten any better at it. And some people are gifted, and some people have that ability, and some people just don't have that ability. He doesn't have a great arm. He doesn't have a great transfer. So what you see might be what you get from Herrera in terms of throwing people out. And so he might have a future in Major League Baseball, and maybe he can get better. I don't know. But his future might be as primarily an offensive guy.
Yeah, and I think that's where you have to get creative with the Cardinals in that respect.
Yeah, that's the thing. And we already got this text in. Herrera is going to be a great trade piece if everyone stays healthy. Do you look at moving Herrera? Because I think worst case scenario, especially with the Cardinals when they're looking into their future with the catching position, is you don't want 2 guys that would be 2 great DHs. And I'm talking about Herrera and Contreras.
It's a good point, too. 314, unfortunately, Pages is only batting 120, so although he's better at holding runners on, he's the odd man out, I think. Herrera should move to DH.
Well, fortunately, we're only talking about the backup. And Contreras, by the way, was a DH last night, and he did catch in his first couple of games back, so he'll be fine. Not fine, but he'll be...
You can hide him. I mean,
right.
A start once a week here or there.
For Pages?
I'm talking about for Herrera.
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that. And you know what? Play him against teams that don't run, because some teams just don't have the athleticism. Some teams aren't built to run. Some teams like to run crazy on a guy like that. So, yeah, you can spot him so that he can be best served, because apparently he is pretty good at managing the game behind the plate. The pitchers like throwing to him. Mm-hmm. He apparently has a great relationship with the manager and the pitching coach. So all of those things are in place. It's just a matter of being able to throw guys out.
Who's quick to the plate, too? That would be maybe, sometimes there's guys that are very familiar with a particular catcher and could be a backup catcher, and they like throwing to that backup catcher. That happened in Atlanta with a few of their guys. But if there's someone that's quicker to the plate, maybe I might try to team him up with that particular pitcher.
So would you look at him as a trade piece, possibly, if you're the Cardinals?
Well, what are you getting back?
Yeah, that's the big question.
And it has to be able to help you this season. I believe, and again, let me point out that I think right now the Cardinals are probably right around the 500 team. That being said, I think their entire focus should be on 2024. I don't think they should be thinking about 25. So if you're looking to, I don't think they'll sell. And if you're going to try to get a prospect for him, wait until the offseason. Keep him around, because what happens if Contreras goes down again, right? Or Pages goes down again? You need to have a major league catcher with a little bit of major league experience, and you don't have anybody down in the minors if you don't have him around.
I still think he can improve. I mean, at this point, it's been it's stuck out like a sore thumb what he's done defensively, but I can't give up on that bat. He can swing the bat. Talking about Herrera, I mean that's one of the things too, is that if you spot him at DH, spot him one time a week, I think you can get away with that.
One thing that I do wish with Yadier Molina, because we did get a text about that, it would be nice if he would be around to help with the situation with Ivan Herrera. Of course, I'm not behind closed doors, so I'm not completely sure if maybe Yadier Molina is doing something behind the scenes of working with some of these players, but that's why you need maybe a catching coach or coordinator, especially if you had Yadi. We were so spoiled to have Yadi for so many years that when we talk about Ivan Herrera and his kind of inability to control the running game, it's because we saw Yadi for so long.
So this team showed up in spring training on Valentine's Day, basically. And we have had February to March, March to April, April to May, May to June. It's June 21st. We still haven't seen Yadi. And I don't anticipate that that's going to be a case this year. And if Yadi walks through that door tonight or tomorrow,
he's not going to make him automatically better.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think this is, if they're paying Yadi, it's a wasted year.
Yeah, I think the best time to have him, at least in my opinion, would be that you'd get him in spring training where there's boots on the ground and there's a lot of hours to work within the parameters of spring training, especially for catchers because they report early. It wouldn't shock me one bit if Yadi is on Zoom with some of these guys and talking to them. I'd be shocked if he's not at least talking to them. It's just we haven't seen him in person. Right. I really would be. I think he's probably done a little bit of that.
Yeah, and I just wonder now, and it's fair because he really wasn't engaged his last year as a player, was completely out last year, and now this year. You wonder how enthusiastic he is about being around the team. It sure doesn't, and I know they've talked about how he's got personal issues that he's dealing with down in Puerto Rico, but it sure doesn't seem as if since his last year as a player, going back to that spring training, that he's really been engaged with the game. And well, I shouldn't say with the game, with the Cardinals.
With him going down to Puerto Rico, too, maybe it's just catching up on family issues and matters. It seems like they've talked about that, and the Cardinals respect that. I just hope that, like you said, Dan, and I'm sure that he is, where he has those conversations with those guys behind the scenes. Because remember, Willson Contreras talked about last year how he talked to Yadi via FaceTime a lot and helped him through a lot of situations. So I hope that's happening. But I agree with you. I mean, watching Yadi, you guys saw it over the years. Yadi during spring training, that's where you really saw that hard work behind the scenes in person, and the way that he worked with those catchers, that's something that is really needed.
I think asking Ivan Herrera just to improve overnight at the major league level, really tough to do.
Especially if you don't have an organizational catching instructor.
I just think that even if that guy was here, I'm not sure he improves overnight.
No, absolutely not. But they don't even have anybody to teach him, so that hurts too. That's Dan, that's Brooke, I'm Randy. It's the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we're going to head back down to Alabama, and Greg Amsinger, who did a great job with MLB Network covering the Rickwood game. Greg will join us next year on 101 ESPN. Next week, we've got NetSuite by Oracle's incredible business event, Business Grows Here. It's Thursday, June 27th at the Union Station Hotel in downtown St. Louis. And if you're a business owner, a CEO, a CFO, an entrepreneur, you don't want to miss it. The Business Grows Here event is set up to help you grow your business. You can spend the day learning from speakers on stage, sharing their wisdom and insights. Included among those speakers, Jamie Simonov, the founder of Ring Video Doorbell, who's starting a company that's going to be headquartered right here in St. Louis. Spend the day learning from all of those people, and you'll be able to take notes and meet people that can change the way you look at growing your business. Apply to attend the business event of the year. It's NetSuite's Business Grows Here, and it happens next Thursday. It'll be a day well spent. It's free to attend if you qualify. Apply today to find out if you do qualify. Well, seats are still available. Go to online to netsuite.com/Missouri. That's NETSUITE, netsuite.com/Missouri, and enjoy the business event of the year through netsuite.com/Missouri.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals yesterday start off their series with a Rickwood Field game against the Giants, and they walk away with a win 6-5. Andre Palante, 5 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 1 home run allowed. Cardinals will be off today as they travel back to St. Louis, where they will finish off the 3-game series against the Giants with games on Saturday and Sunday. Also in St. Louis this weekend, St. Louis City faces off against Atlanta. They take on Atlanta at 7:30 down at City Park on Saturday night. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Randy Carricker, the opening drive on 101 ESPN, and Greg Amsinger and the staff at MLB Network did an amazing job over the last several days, A, with the passing of Willie Mays, and then B, with the game at Rickwood last night. And Chris Young and Adam Wainwright were there with Greg, and they did a fantastic job as well. Greg Amsinger, good morning. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Randy. I really was honored to be part of this historic event. And you know what? Tip the cap to the guys and ladies over at Fox Sports. I thought they did a tremendous job working with the league to put that tribute to Willie Mays together before the game. And that was a lot of work, a lot of hours of, sheer panic, because obviously the date on the calendar was significant by itself, honoring the Negro Leagues. and all the history of Rickwood Field, but there was another layer added with the passing of arguably the greatest player of all time. So they did a great job, and I think everyone celebrated last night just to be part of what was an unforgettable moment in Alabama.
You are, in addition to being a baseball fan, you are a baseball romantic. I know Adam Wainwright is. I don't know about Chris, but I want to get your goosebump level last night. Well, 1 to 10 on the goosebump meter.
It was a 12. I'm not kidding you. Look, there are things you see that you don't ever make air. And we were having a meeting about our postgame show after we were done with our pregame show. And we sent it back to the studio in Secaucus because we had to get off the field so they can get the game ready, you know. So there was about an hour of studio that we were doing. And we were in our talent trailer, which you know all about, Randy, and we're with our producers on Zoom. We're talking, and Chris Young is looking at the ceremony, the pregame ceremony that's taking place, and he sprints out of the meeting. Like, he sprints out of our meeting as we're collecting all of our thoughts and game planning for the postgame show. He ran, and we saw him with all of our cameras. We had the back hall, so a bunch of cameras of Fox we had up in our talent trailer. We see him run onto the field, and he's got a credential so he could do that. He ran onto the field and wanted to be there to watch all of the former Negro League players that were in attendance, over 100 of them, walk or be rolled onto the field because they're such elderly men, and he wanted to witness it and then shake their hands as well. So to see my colleague who did a great job on the pregame show is we're talking about the postgame show, he stopped what he was doing so he could run onto the field to meet these men that actually played on the oldest baseball field in America, 114 years old, Rickwood Field, to see what it meant to him. And so many of them. I mean, look, we had a moment where, I'm not even kidding you, we're live on the air, and out of nowhere, Michael Bourne, LaTroy Hawkins, Jimmy Rollins, Justin Upton, Ryan Howard, Dexter Fowler, CeCe Sabathia, they all run up onto the set. And just to see this joy, and Adam Jones, the celebration, as Adam Jones said, black excellence was on display, and it was just a wonderful thing to be a part of. I will never forget it. It was a 12 on the scale of 1 to 10 of goosebumps.
Greg, it was absolutely perfect and great coverage by you guys this week. But I wanted to see, too, is this something that maybe that we could do every single year? We were talking about that earlier. It seems like it's just so important, and it's also really important that finally we're really honoring the Negro Leagues in this way.
Yeah, I think, Brooke, what you're going to see is Major League Baseball kind of collect a handful of domestic venues that matter to the nation. And I really think there will be another Field of Dreams game down the road. Who knows when, but I wouldn't be shocked to see 5 to 10 venues, and in 20 years, there's like this domestic tour where people can go, they're going to do Rickwood in 2029. Like, I don't know, like we could dream on it and see it again, because when you get a taste of something, you would love to experience it again. And I thought the atmosphere was incredible. From all the little details, the little perch that Joe Davis and John Smoltz did the game from, like, to see what it looked like in person was crazy, and the facility was oozing with history. So, look, would I be shocked if there was another Rickwood game? No, I would not be. Do I think it'll be next year? No, but I think Major League Baseball is onto something here. They've got a nice little game plan where there are these domestic venues that matter to the country are going to be pushed to the forefront down the line.
Is there one story that you heard over the last few days that stood out about Willie Mays for you?
Oh, man, so many of them. That's a great question. We had Dave Fleming, who I know you know, Dan, one of the great play-by-play guys in the sport of the San Francisco Giants. And we had Dave on the pregame show, and if you haven't heard it, he was the one that broke the news of Willie's passing on KNBR, one of the top radio stations in the country in San Francisco. And he couldn't get it out live on the air. He's up on the set, and he goes, I've heard the audio, and I said, Dave, it had to be one of the most emotional moments of your career. And he said it was, and he feels that he botched it. Live on our air, he said, I actually think I messed it up. My job is to be a broadcaster and not to be overcome with emotion. But he said Willie, really was so kind to him, because he was a young kid when he got that gig as the radio play-by-play guy of the Giants. And there was one story he shared of Willie wanting him to know that he was welcome to the family, so he invited him to his house. So here's a young Dave Fleming going to Willie Mays' house, and Willie takes him into the garage, where apparently this is the first time he's done this. Willie's got so much like swag. People give him so much stuff that they put his name on. He's got like extras, right? So Willie is like, "Hey, do you play golf?" And Dave's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Take one of those bags," and it's got Willie Mays all over it, right? He's, I don't want to take one of your golf bags. He's like, I got like 14 of those. Please, by all means, that's yours. Take it to your car right now. He's like, wow, okay. So Willie just wanted everyone that was in the Giants family to know that they were welcome, they were loved, and he cared about them. And for Dave Fleming to say, Buch, I had to disagree with him on the air. And I said, look, what people want today, they want storytellers. They want people that actually care and are invested in the teams and the players that they love. And for you to react the way you did was human, and that's all we want, man. We want authenticity in our broadcasters, and you did that. You were yourself. I thought that was a wonderful tale. As a broadcaster myself, what Dave Fleming had to experience to break that massive news was really something to listen to.
Greg, the Cardinals with the best record in the National League since Mother's Day, 23-13. You had a chance to be around the ball club, but what did you glean from the Cardinals?
Yeah, Ollie Marmol came up on the set. I got to tell you, he's walking around with his chest out, and I kind of dig it. He's confident. He feels good about his team, and the club feels good about themselves. They're getting healthier. There's some pieces that aren't even back yet, and they like where they're at. I like where they're at. I'm going to say it once a week, every time I'm on the show, matter of fact. And I saw John Mozeliak, and, we embraced, by the way, I think he can deadlift like 800 pounds now. Have you seen this guy lately? Holy smokes, Mozeliak looks more jacked than normal. And he knows that the pitching has actually been what they hoped it would be. I think this team, I'm going to say it once a week, is going to win the Central. I think they have more depth in the organization than the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Brewers have hit like gangbusters to start the year. Cardinals have not completely. They're starting to come out of hibernation. And I think this team, like you said, their record since Mother's Day is a reflection of how talented they are, how they will remain. And look, should they have won more than one game in Miami? Yeah, that stunk. They lost 2 of 3, but they're both in walk-off fashion. I still like where this team's at, and I think they're going to win the Central. They believe they're going to win the Central.
And Greg, to answer your question, here we are on June 21st, and John Mozeliak has not had a media availability yet this season, so no, we haven't.
You haven't seen it.
Well, listen, he's been doing it for a while, man, and he's got senioritis. I mean, how much time does he have on what he called the last deal of his career? So, I don't blame him. He's rolling up the way he wants to roll up. I want to guess when they win the Central Division, he's going to have a little availability for you guys.
I would think so.
I was going to say maybe he's busy with CrossFit, and that's why we haven't seen him as much, Greg. But now I'm going to have to look out for John Mozeliak and the benching that he's been doing. But
he's wide. He's wide. His back is wide. Like he looks like if you put pads on him, he'd be an outside linebacker right now. I'm not even kidding you.
Well, John Mozeliak, when he has spoken recently, it seems like they're not going to be sellers at the trade deadline. If there is something that the Cardinals could add, what do you think that they should be adding?
I think, look, bullpen, they've been riding their big three hard, man. Kittredge and Romero and Helsley. I mean, they're at the moment, they're the MVPs, are they not? To win all these one-run games, these close nail-biters, to rely on those three for another entire half and expect them to perform at the level they have, I think that is just a little bit too lofty. Another legit bullpen arm is essential for this Cardinal team right now. I think everyone wants to point to the rotation. Every year we have this conversation and be like, oh, man, they need another starter. They need another starter. Everyone needs another starter. As Adam Wainwright said last night, he did a great tape on Andre Palante. He was 25 years old and figuring it out. And Adam's been with him since he broke in, and now he's a true competitor on the mound. Adam thinks he's the 5. He should be the number 5 starter going forward. Everyone's healthy. Just invest in this kid. He loves the funky, herky-jerky mechanics over the top of Palante. I like Adam Wainwright's baseball IQ, and if he says he's the perfect fit, number 5, I'm going to agree with him. I think it's a bullpen piece, Brooke. I think another major weapon out of a bullpen is what the Cardinals will be shopping for.
Hey, Greg, the Dodgers lose Yamamoto and Betts in the space of 24 hours. Should there be any concern on the part of Dodger fans?
Absolutely. The Dodger fans, and more importantly, the ownership group of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the amount of money invested in this product, they were expecting. I mean, they still are, and they still could win it all. They literally could. But Walker Buehler going back to the IL, hip injury, this is not playing out the way we expected. It's not. And look, a freak injury to Mookie Betts, heartbreaking what he's doing, going from the outfield to shortstop after the age of 30. You'll never see that again, ever see that again. It's too bad. And I wanted to see this team, battle the Philadelphia Phillies for the best record in the National League. But it seems to me with this injury, and to expect Mookie Betts to come back and be as great as he was, he's proven everyone wrong before. I just think it's clear that the Philadelphia Phillies are 2 cuts above everyone else in the National League. They are the best team in the NL, and it'll be an upset if anyone other than the Phillies go to the World Series. Just because the injuries, the lack of depth now of the Los Angeles Dodgers, you can sell me on Clayton Kershaw and whoever else is coming back off the IL. We haven't seen what they look like yet, and we see everything Philadelphia Phillies have. They don't have a weakness at the moment, and I just don't think there's any NL team you can compare to what is playing home games at Citizens Bank Park right now.
Greg Amsinger, you guys were awesome at Rickwood. Thanks for your great work. Thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Safe travels, and have a great weekend.
All right, we'll do it again next week. Take care, guys.
Our brother, thanks. Take care. That's Greg Amsinger, product of the Lindenwood University, native of St. Louis, Cardinal fan, and lead anchor for MLB Network. And he and Chris Young and Adam Wainwright were terrific, as he mentioned, Fox last night with the Rickwood telecast.
They really were. I mean, that was such a great broadcast by so many people and what they were able to do. I'm sorry, I'm still tickled over here by the fact of John Mozeliak is ripped, I guess. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I didn't either. I don't know what else to say. I didn't know.
I was not expecting that.
That's great.
It's not.
Yeah, I wonder if he's got the V shape going, you think?
The V shape.
I don't know what to say to that either. I'm not sure.
Remember when Tiger was at his best? I don't know if he had any helpers or not, but his from the waist up, he was shaped like a V.
He had like a 32-inch waist and then big, broad shoulders.
Yeah, who could he hit it?
Yeah, he could hit it. But as far as Mo goes, I don't know. I can't really comment on that.
No comment.
Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Text in your TIOLI to 314-399-9646. 314-399. Yo-ho!
Yo-ho.
There's Dan.
Weekend edition.
A weekend edition of Yo-ho with TIOLI coming your way next on 101 ESPN.
say something. We put it out there. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Time for TIOLI here on 101 ESPN. Dan, Brooke, Matthew, and Randy. And kids this morning on Unsportsmanlike. I might be doing some ESPN radio on ESPN Radio Crime here. But Dan Graziano was on the Unsportsmanlike show.
ESPN on ESPN Crime.
Yeah, might be. I don't know. But Dan Graziano was trying to compare Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence. And Dan Graziano said Jordan Love has won 2 playoff games and Trevor Lawrence has won only 1. Take it or leave it, you didn't realize that Urban Meyer was as good of a coach in the NFL as Matt LaFleur is.
Yeah, that would have been a little rough start for old Trevor Lawrence, wouldn't it have been?
Yeah.
That was his first coach coming out of college? Yeah, that makes some sense maybe as to why you weren't as good early on.
Yeah, why you haven't won as many playoff games as Jordan Love.
Is that where I'm going with this?
Yes, you nailed it.
Okay.
So you're taking it.
I didn't hear it, but now I'm getting the gist of this. I got it.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And just to say, because you won, I mean, there's a lot of factors as to why you win playoff games.
Who you're playing is part of it.
Who you're throwing to.
Yep.
Your personnel.
Yeah,
and the package that you're given by the head coach and offensive coordinator.
How about this? Your organization, Packers versus Jaguars. Let's take the last 10 years for the Packers versus the Jaguars.
I'll take the Pack.
Yeah, me too.
I think so. Yeah, I'll take it.
Come on, Dan.
Sorry.
Little ESPN on ESPN Crime.
I feel like I just got yelled at for making all the right points.
So I'm still a little hyper fixated on this news that Greg Amsinger just dropped. Take it or leave it. John Mozeliak joined a CrossFit gym, or take it or leave it, he joined Mentality.
Oh, I'm going to go with
well, you got to go Mentality, right? They're a great sponsor of 101 ESPN.
They are. And, yeah, he's...
That's well done, Brooke, to tie that in to a sponsor of ESPN. That is smart radio.
Powering through workouts, yeah.
Yes.
No doubt.
What's wrong with you guys?
Greg is so funny. I always enjoy and look forward to our interviews with him because he will just drop random tidbits like that.
By the way... if you down in spring training, I'm sure you guys saw this. When we got there early to do the morning show one year, I guess multiple years, we would record in the morning or just do the morning show. But especially like when Matheny was manager, Mo and Matheny would work out hard in the morning. Yeah, Mo is a workout warrior.
No, they do. Yeah, literally, they're working out all the time. Now, you did say. What was the text from John Fitzgerald about getting ripped?
Oh, yeah. Take it or leave it. It's ridiculous that you guys didn't know that John Mozeliak was ripped. He gets ripped every day on the air, ripped on the text line, ripped on the YouTube chat. Of course he's ripped.
It's true. I mean, he gets ripped everywhere. Take it or leave it. The Cardinals should continue to push to be on MLB's signature events.
Take it.
Oh, yeah, take it.
I think it's great. I know some fans say, well, why'd they go to London? I wanted to see him at home. Or why are you giving up a home game to go play in Rickwood? These are great games to be a part of, and you want to make yourself a bigger brand, and the Cardinals are a massive brand anyway, but they're trying to be even bigger, get more global. I think it's a smart thing to do from an organizational standpoint.
Would you say Cardinals, Yankees, Dodgers, maybe Cubs, I guess, and Braves, probably the top 5 brands in baseball?
You nailed them.
Oh, yeah.
I think you nailed them.
Yeah.
100%.
If you're going up north, it'd be the Blue Jays.
Right. They own Canada. It's amazing.
Exactly. It's unbelievable how widespread that is. But yeah, those are the 5 teams that come to mind for sure.
And by the way, the reason that the Blue Jays are, Dan Schulman does a national game every day in Canada. The Blue Jays are on Rogers Sportsnet. And so when the Blue Jays go to Seattle, they've always sold out. Tons of Blue Jays fans go to the games because they're up in Vancouver, and they've always sold out there. I didn't realize that until a couple of years ago, but one of the reasons Dan Schulman took that job is because he'll be able to do the Blue Jays in the World Series on TV.
It's awesome. The other part is that the Atlanta Braves had the Superstation, so it became such a brand in the South, but then nationwide, you'd be able to watch them at night, and then in the day, you had WGN with the Cubs, so you're able to watch those day games.
And with the Cardinals, it was KMOX, and then, of course, with the Yankees and Dodgers, the New York Roots.
Yep. Yep.
So
when I was in
pretty good.
Arkansas, that's how it was. Is it was split between the Cardinals and Cubs because of the radio broadcast. They're just fans, their parents, grandparents listening, and then they become fans of those teams. It just continued, and we covered a lot of the Cardinals down in Arkansas.
One of the craziest, and I don't know if I've told this on the air before. I think I have. And I don't know, Dan, did you ever meet Bill Clinton?
I did.
Yeah.
I have a ball signed by him. I met him personally down in the bowels of Shea Stadium.
Okay. He came to our ballpark, and I don't know if he was a candidate at the time or if he'd been elected president, but Jack Buch introduces me to him. And he says, I hear you after every game.
He listens. His brother is a massive Cardinals fan.
Yeah, so
massive Cardinals fan.
Yeah, down in Arkansas, they would listen to the post-game show.
It's crazy.
It's amazing. All right, Matthew, what do you got for us?
Take it or leave it. Leaving the kids with dad for the weekend is kind of like bringing in a position player to pitch. You don't expect a win. You just hope everyone has fun and no one gets hurt.
It's so good.
Totally take it.
That's 100% right.
But you know what? Those kids are going to have food that they like.
Oh, yeah. A lot of ice cream, a lot of cookies, cakes.
Yep. McDonald's.
But then you have to deal with the repercussions of that.
Yeah,
there's a thing going viral right now where somebody was like mad that their babysitter let their kid gorge out on a candy essentially, and someone's like, and then they're like, the babysitter will never get near my kid again. Everyone's like, my parents' reaction would have been like, are they injured anywhere? Cool. Here's $20. See you again next week.
Hey, I would suggest that the parents that are complaining about that Google Todd Marinovich. Todd
Marinovich, the Robo QB that wound up going to USC.
Yeah.
And his father and he, I think, had stated when he was 18 years old going to play at USC that he had never had a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Then he got to L.A.
Yeah.
And he was alone and found out about McDonald's.
That's what I think.
And other things.
I was going to say, yeah.
From the parenting side, wouldn't you guys say that if you're trying to, from kids, if you say you can't have this, they're going to want it more?
Bingo. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he found the wacky weed too. He found the devil's lettuce.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
you know all the nicknames for that stuff, Randy.
Do you want to do the full rundown of them?
No, not right now. But
okay.
Todd Marinovich knows them all too, or knew them all. And then after Todd, Marv Marinovich, his dad, divorced his mom, married a 5'11" or 6 foot tall ballerina to breed another quarterback. His name was Mikhail. And he actually wound up playing college football, never played in the NFL. But his father found a mate so that they could make a football player.
Yep.
That's weird.
Okay.
Take it or leave it.
There's a lot there.
Take it or leave it. You've gone from worrying about the Cardinals this year to worrying about the Cardinals in a few years because where's the depth in the minor league system?
I'm old, and so I don't worry about a few years.
I don't either.
I worry about now.
I even as a sports fan, I just worry about now.
Yeah.
I kind of take that though. I think I think it's a fair worry if you're a Cardinal fan.
So you've got a 22-year-old shortstop. You've got a 22-year-old superstar outfielder that's going to come back. You've got a 27-year-old second baseman. You've got a 23-year-old DH second baseman. I mean, you've got Chase Davis. You got all these pitchers down at the minor league level. The problem that you have with the system is that the system is here.
Chase Davis hitting over the last month has been a big boost overall to kind of like when you view the system, because when he was hitting like 125 through May, it was like, okay, that's not that great, but he has raked over June.
Yeah, I would say though the fun part about baseball is you talk more about the prospects in baseball than any other sport, and that's what makes it fun. Yeah. But I'm with you though, Randy. If I have to give up prospects to win now, I'm winning now.
Me too.
Right now, because you don't know when you're going to get that chance again,
and especially if you're in the Cardinals situation. Because
Goldie, Arenado, they're not getting any younger.
No, and this storied franchise has not been to a World Series in 11 years, which for a lot of franchises, that's not a big deal. For this franchise, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Take it or leave it. Dave Duncan should be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame for his playing career, coaching career, and noting Reggie Jackson's comments from last night, just being a quality human being.
Oh, yeah. That was a great point.
Are we going to play that?
Yes.
We should play that at some point.
Yeah.
What Reggie had to say.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I mean, I was riveted watching him speak about that and just so raw in the emotions of what he had to say.
Dave Duncan, by the way, in covering baseball, was one of my favorites to be around because, number one, he is, and you can tell by his offspring, just a quality human being. But he is a great teacher of the game, not only for his pitchers and his players, but he taught me a lot. I learned a lot from him.
Oh, I did too. And I was around it all the time. And he only came up to me one time and was kind of frustrated on something I said about Chris. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't anything that was bad. I mean, he missed a ball or something like that. And he was struggling. He said, just understand, He said, Chris is putting in all the work. And I said, I do understand that. He said, he's trying his best. And I said, I got you. I said, I'm not trying to embarrass him in any kind of way. And Chris chimed up. He said, I'm just embarrassing myself. You know, because I then went to Chris and talked to him about it. He goes, oh, don't worry about it. He goes, I embarrass myself every night out there.
He turned it into a great bit.
I said, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I just had to point out that you dropped a fly ball, you know. And he said to me, Chris told me, he said every fly ball he was absolutely scared to death. Right. He said, I'm just going to be honest, I'm scared to death with a routine fly ball.
One of the great bits ever on this station was drop a couple of balls in the World Series and all of a sudden you become a liability.
Right. Right.
Literally Chris Pratt's character in Moneyball. What's your fear? A ball being hit in my general direction at any point during the game?
Oh, well, the best was Guerrero, though, with Lasorda, right? So
this is a great story.
Guerrero was a bad third baseman. He wanted to play in the outfield, playing first base here, but he was playing third base for Tommy Lasorda. And Tommy, it was in a team meeting, right? And Tommy says to him, "Pete, what are you thinking when the batter's at the plate?" He's saying, "Don't hit the ball to me." And at that time, Steve Sachs was having a really bad time throwing. He said, "Well, what else are you thinking?" He says, Don't hit the ball to Sachs.
Exactly. I think my favorite part of the Jack Clark home run
was him
throwing down his glove like a little leaguer in left field. Yeah. It's like one of my favorite things to watch.
He was like a little leaguer.
He was.
It was so funny.
Aroldis Chapman did that the other night. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it got caught, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. It was one of the ones that died at the warning track, too, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Routine fly ball out to deep left center. He's throwing his glove down like he's 5 years old.
And Whitey had said, by the way, before that series started, he said, Tommy and I are going to set a record for most intentional walks in a playoff series. And Guerrero didn't see a pitch during that series. And then with a base open and Andy Van Slyke on deck, Lasorda decides to pitch to Jack.
It's incredible. It's one of the things I wonder about. Like, what are you thinking in that spot?
And then one year on Memorial Day, the Dodgers are in town, and Ron Jacober and I are doing an open line at KMOX.
And Lasorda was listening,
Lasorda
right?
and Charlie Gito were driving around town. So Lasorda calls in and says, he thought we didn't know what we were talking about. He says, who was on deck? Van Slyke. Well, what would you have done? Pitch to Van Slyke or Clark? I said, I pitched to Van Slyke.
Yeah, right.
You don't pitch to Jack Clark then? So it was fun. That is TIOLI. Thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you.
Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we've got our fresh take. How did MLB do with the Rickwood game? That's coming your way here on 101 ESPN.
perspective on today's top stories. This is Fresh Take.
Presented by Lindenwood University. Real experience, real success.
Now batting, number 24, center fielder Willie Mays.
Tonight in Birmingham, a baseball story returns to where it all began. Where the Say Hey kid first fell in love with the game. Home.
Birmingham, I've been telling y'all that if there's any way on earth my father could come down here, that he would. Well, he's found another way. So you already stand to your feet. Let him hear you. He's listening. Make all the noise you can.
Willie Mays' son last night, and the voice of John Miller at the Rickwood game that MLB staged for America on Fox. Dan, before we move on here, can you give us a little John Miller?
And at number 24,
So good.
the great Willie Mays.
Thank you very much. Nobody does a better John Miller than Danny Mac.
Thank you, Chip. Or is your name Tim? Or Steve? Whatever. He did that to... I was up at... Just to sidetrack.
I like it.
He said one time I was up in the booth and he said, "Hey, Dan, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, great to see you, Mr. Miller. Great to be with you. And how are you doing? How's your day? How's your road trip? All that stuff." Great. I said, "This is my partner, Brad." "Oh, Tim, great to see you again." Just kept going on, and Brad, of course, just kept moving right along with it.
Okay, so we're done.
He can be a little, eccentric.
So while we have this rabbit hole, and he's awesome, John Miller is one of the greatest people. The Jimmy the Cat Hayes story about dinner last night.
Oh, so he says, he comes in and he says, "Where'd you guys go to dinner?" We said, "Oh, we went to this place. It was like the #1 restaurant in town." He's like, "Oh, that place is incredible." And he goes to Jim Hayes. He said, "Jim, what did you have for dinner?" He said, "Well, I had Chinese." "Chinese? You're telling me you're in this great city of San Francisco and you go have Chinese?" These guys went to Barbados, and you had Chinese. You could have had a seat at one of the great places here in San Francisco. And believe me, I love Chinese. But you could have been at Barbados with Tim and Dan. And then he just kept moving him back into a corner and you could have gone here, you could have gone there. He just kept going down the list of all the restaurants he could have gone to. John Miller is the absolute best.
He's fantastic.
That's so funny.
A couple of big highlights last night. Bill Greason, the oldest living Hall of Famer, was throwing out the first pitch and had a chance to be interviewed on Fox.
Once you make up your mind and you see what's going on, you know you can't change it, so you adapt to it and make the best of it. And that's what we did. We didn't worry too much about segregation, because when we get to the ballpark, we put that uniform on, go out and play, come back, change, go. And that's the way it was with us. We didn't allow segregation to stop us from playing, from using our talents and gifts for what we were there for. And it was a tremendous blessing to have a gift from God that enabled you to be recognized as such.
You were the first black pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. What does it mean to you to be here tonight, seeing the Cardinals play on this field?
Oh, it's a tremendous blessing, and to be here, to see this team play, it's good, because it was not like that when I went to the Cardinals. Eddie Stanky was the manager, and it hadn't developed yet, playing together and being together. But that's the way it was with us. And I was taught from a young age to know who you are, not worry about other people if you can help them. Just remember who you are and try to do the best you could. I had somebody I had to represent. That was my mother.
Bill Greason, the oldest living Negro League baseball player.
And 1954 was the year the Cardinals had their first ever black player. That was Tom Alston. And not a lot has been made of that. You know, he kind of had an up and down ride with the St. Louis Cardinals, and I wish there was more made of that he was the first black player for the St. Louis Cardinals. And going back to Bill Greason, he's a reverend too. He was a reverend at one point, and he's the oldest living Negro League player, served in World War II, grew up across the street from Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, you talk about a guy that's got some history there, man. It was awesome to hear it.
It was such a great interview, and I just couldn't help but think last night, how lucky are we that we are still able to hear stories straight from him at 99 years old, and he's still so sharp. It was such a touching moment. I didn't know the full kind of pregame activities and what they were going to do, and I was surprised to see that, where you have Willie McGee helping him out onto the field for the first pitch, and that was just such a touching moment. And for that interview, such a great interview, to be able to hear stories from him, what they went through. Reggie Jackson, I know that we're going to play that interview as well. It's so important for people to hear these stories, and they really just nailed every single aspect of that game.
I thought the vintage uniforms are great. When Fox went back to 1954 on the broadcast in black and white and just the certain camera angles that they had. I thought the other part that was great that we haven't even touched upon yet and talked about was Bob Kendrick. And Bob Kendrick, when he comes on from the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, which I always say this, if you go to Kansas City and watch the Cardinals and the Royals play, make a stop there, you're going to learn about history. It's wonderful.
Yeah. A couple of quick points. Number one, Tom Alston, when Gussie Buch bought the team in 1953, bought the Cardinals, he was appalled that the Cardinals didn't have any black players, and it made it a point by 1954 to have a black player in uniform. And we had the chance as young broadcasters, and one of the great good fortunes of my life was to get to know Bob Bragg very well, who watched Babe Ruth play. And Bob Bragg was good friends with Cool Papa Bell, and he told me that those guys were every bit as good as the major league players that were playing in the Negro Leagues.
And Stan and Red made a point to include black players, which was something that should be noted and pointed out with this. And I'm with you about last night, though. Just a celebration of the sport, but also I think a chance to learn. And I think, I say this all the time. Some of us probably know what happened back then and read about it and talk to some people about it. But for our young fans and the kids that have no idea that this stuff happened, for them to be educated and watch that last night. You don't think there was some little girl or little boy watching that going, now, why are they doing this? That is why you do this, in my opinion, so that you have an understanding to teach kids about what the country used to be like.
And we're going to play the Reggie Jackson interview at 9 o'clock in the rush hour reset. But if you aren't as aware of what was going on during this time, 40s, 50s, 60s in baseball, 70s, Hank Aaron's book was called I Had a Hammer. If you get a chance to read I Had a Hammer, he prints some of the letters that he received in that book, and it is jaw-dropping how awful he was treated. And he was just one example of one black player that was treated so poorly. But the book is really worthwhile because he intimated a lot of the same things that Bill Greason did, that I didn't worry about it, I just went out and did my job.
And Bob Gibson did the same thing. I think, Dan, you brought up a great point earlier about why it's so important for the Cardinals to be in big events like this, especially historic events, because you're able to learn about some of the pioneers, the players that came through the organization, like Bill Greason, like Curt Flood, like Bob Gibson, and what they were able to do, not only for the Cardinals organization, but the way that they changed baseball in general.
Yeah, I just think it's more even about learning about our country. And baseball is a part of it. Segregation, the fact that these black players were not allowed to play Major League Baseball, and then you learn about the bigger picture, what was going on with our country. And I just think that's so important. I really do.
That's Dan, that's Brooke, and that is today's Fresh Take here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, our buddy Jay Delsing joins us to talk some golf, and I'm sure he's got a little bit to weigh in on from last night as well here on 101 ESPN. I want you to know about 2060 Digital. In this fast-paced world of digital marketing, making connections with your audience and potential customers can be a difficult task. But what if there was a place where connections aren't just made, but they're nurtured for growth? Enter 2060 Digital. It's a sister company of 101 ESPN, backed by a 100-year-old media empire. And if you are a business owner or marketer and you want more strategic ways to reach and engage customers through social media or digital, look no further than 2060 Digital. They have the science of using social media down to a science, and they'll build the perfect website for your company. And they also use algorithms so that if you want your company, and we all want our company when we're searched to be at the top of the list, that front page, you can be when you use 2060 Digital. They know what they're doing. They optimize digital campaigns. They have a great analytics crew, so you'll be able to see how they're doing for you. All you need to do is go to 2060 Digital. Go to 101ESPN.com/2060 Digital today. The opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. Brooke Grimsley, Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker, and we head to the celebrity line and our friend, former PGA pro, the host of Golf with Jay Delsing, Sundays with Danny Mac here on 101 ESPN. You can hear him every Sunday, 8 to 10. Jay Delsing is with us now. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. How did you like the Rickwood game last night?
Oh, man. I thought that from every level, it was just so well done. I mean, especially from the point of the uniforms and getting to hear, as Brooke noted, interviews. And it was, I got to be honest, it touched me way more than I thought it would. I thought it was a great idea. Fox did a fantastic job, but it was really, really cool. And it hit me much harder than I thought it would.
It was such a great event, Jay. You're right. And just all the storytelling was amazing. Now, I want to get into, of course, some golf here. How do you feel about Team USA with the Olympics?
Oh, man, to be honest, Brooke, I'd love to see, Bryson DeChambeau on it. I can't get enough of him. I'd like to see him on any sort of thing USA related. I thought with him winning the U.S. Open, the way he won the U.S. Open, he completely revamped his image with the fans. He's very much a showman, and I think he just kind of got off to such a weird start with his career and all the crazy, gaining weight. And the thing that I laugh about the most about Bryson, because he's a really smart kid. I mean, he's a really, really smart guy, but it didn't dawn on him, you guys, is when he was eating like 4 steaks a day and ate, these protein shakes and doing all this stuff. He didn't think about his overall health. And then all of a sudden it dawned on him. He's like, ooh, this is not going to be great from, maybe when I get over 40. And so, he kind of pulled it back, and it's great to see him win. It was crushing for Rory, but it was great golf.
As it relates to last night, Jay, and I'm not sure if you felt like this in watching a baseball game, but in terms of golf, and I knew we were going to have you on this morning, and I was just thinking about like Lee Elder, Charlie Sifford, some of the first ever black golfers that broke through. Do you have any kind of insight on that and just some of the guys that you played with and some of the things that they went through?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I first got on the PGA Tour in 1984, when I got my card, I was on the Michelob staff, and Lee Elder was part of that staff. So we got to do a lot of things together. And Lee was really, really interesting guy. I mean, he had seen it all. I think he was the first African-American player to play in the Masters. And he we would sit down and have a Michelob or two, and he would tell stories. And he went the golfers went through a lot. I mean, you can imagine with some of these lily white country clubs around the country and segregation. Excuse me, it was a really, really big challenge. And oddly enough, guys, we went through a lull on the PGA Tour, kind of in the when Tiger came out. There were really more African American players on the tour prior to that. And what Tiger's done, we went through a couple of different periods on the PGA Tour. This is going to sound crazy, but when John Daly got popular and John Daly brought a Jack Daniels type crowd out to the golf tournament. So what I mean by that is we would see, so many more just more blue-collar people going to the golf course, following John, getting rowdy. It just brought a different element to golf in that sense. And then now that Tiger's done what he's done, Tiger's made it cool, and Tiger considers himself multiracial, with his dad being African-American, his mom is from Taiwan. And so all of those doors somehow, guys, have to be open. It doesn't make any sense. One of the things that drives me crazy, it's a little off the race conversation, but they talk about golf being for rich kids, and that just pisses me off, really, because it's not the case. And if that was the case, I would have never been able to play. You can get a set of clubs for your kids for under $100, and they can go down to a Muni golf course and play all day for the price of going to a movie. So that argument just doesn't fly. But to watch what happened at Rickwood, I thought everybody did such a great job just chronicling it, and some of the conversations were great, and it did make me think about golf. And Danny, when we had, I don't know if you recall, but we had Lee Trevino on the show, and I said to him, did you suffer through some of this racial stuff? And he said, I really didn't. And his comment was, I felt like Lee and Charlie and those guys pretty much put that to bed for we golfers to follow. And that was not that far after Lee and Charlie, so we're talking about maybe a 10 or 12-year span. So it was interesting to me. Yeah.
Hey, Jay, I don't know if you put this in. I know you have, but I don't know if you have since last weekend. But when you see what happened to Rory, I have even a greater appreciation for Tiger Woods winning 15 majors. Do you? What Tiger did was, when you think about what Rory has done, and with the back-to-back runners-up at the U.S. Open and his inability to win a major after winning so many early on, what Tiger did between 1997 and 2008 was just unbelievable, as it turns out.
Yeah, 100%, Randy. And what really kills me is I start thinking about what would have happened if Tiger could have managed his life better off the course. Mm-hmm. If 2009 and Thanksgiving doesn't happen, we're talking about a guy who potentially could have 30 majors and 150 tour wins. That's not out of the question. That year in 2009, he won 10 times. And in 2010, the U.S. Open was going to be back at Pebble Beach, where he routed the field the last time it was played there. And the British Open was going to be at St. Andrews, where he had also won already. And I promise you, as he was looking forward to 2010 before the whole debacle, is that he's thinking, I'm going to knock at least 2 more majors off, at least 2.
Are you worried about, not worried about, but Rory's 35 now, and once you get past 35, it's hard to win majors. He's certainly not going to do what I think I expected him to do, but do you think now with what's happened, are you worried about him winning another major?
I am. I think these, what happened to him gosh, it's almost been 15 years ago, but what he did at Augusta with a 4-shot lead on Sunday and then a 1-shot lead going to the back 9 and wind up finishing 15th for the championship that year are big time scars, Randy. And what happened on Sunday, that's just as bad. And I don't know how you bury that. And Danny and I did some research. Actually, Danny, you did the research and talked about how difficult it is for anybody to win a major championship after the age of 31. I think Arnold Palmer never won after 31. I think Tom Watson, won at 33. Ernie Els never did. There's a long, long list of guys that never won another major championship after the age of 35, and so he's got history up against him as well. It was brutal. Jack Nicklaus said at the Memorial on air that he thought Rory could win more if he could button up some of his concentration and not go through these lapses. And I got to tell you guys, him missing a 30-inch putt on the 16th hole with relatively no break. Now, listen, they're all tough, but the way he'd been putting, what Jack said, I think, was spot on. I don't think Rory. I think it was more mental that he just had some sort of breakdown, and then to have the on 18, you guys, that putt on 18 is about as difficult as you can get, even though it was only 3 feet 9 inches long. Mm-hmm. That ball breaks at least a cut. I got a kick out of Smiley Kaufman, who said he got behind it and said it's not outside the hole. And I'm like, in what universe? That putt broke so much. As soon as Rory hit it, it was moving to the right. So they did him a little disservice with saying it was inside left, because when a putt's inside the hole, you can pretty much hit it hard and kind of take some of the guesswork out of it. Rory had to put that thing at least a cup left of the hole.
Who do you guys have on the show on Sunday?
We've got Steve Welding, who was Wedling. Sorry, he is a UHY director here in town and does a ton of stuff for junior golf. And we had on Monday the Caddies Go to College event at Norwood, and it was about the Evans Scholarship, Randy, where there's all of these scholarships for boys and girls. If you caddy, you can get your college paid for. And so Steve was hosting us at Norwood. We did that. We also have Jerome Harris on. He's a founder of Urban Golf STL, which is a inner city program where he's got, Danny, what did he say, 250 or 300 city kids doing golf camps?
Yeah, it was over 300, he told us.
Yeah, it was just fantastic. And then we have Adam Betts, who is just the greatest, who has Family Golf and Learning Center down in Kirkwood. And Adam is a great supporter of the show and golf. And so we got those 3 guys on this week.
Good. And by the way, I don't know if you guys heard this. Scotty Scheffler shows up at the Travelers, and he's a huge Dallas sports fan. And the Travelers is in Connecticut, in New England. And somebody comes up and asks Scotty to sign a Boston Celtics hat. He said, "No, I'm not signing a Boston Celtics hat." So good for him.
When I saw that, I actually thought it was going to be some sort of picture of him, from the PGA in handcuffs or something. And I would be curious to see if he'd sign that as well. But no Boston gear, no way.
All right, Jay, have a great weekend. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
You guys too. Thanks so much.
That's our buddy Jay Delsing here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Can I have a proud dad moment?
Yes.
And a little brag moment here. My daughter yesterday at a 2-day event, she is 17, won the St. Louis Junior Invitational for all the girls here in St. Louis. So she won the event. Jay helps her, by the way. I should mention Jay is her coach, so that doesn't hurt
that
either.
Does help, yeah.
She's got like Jay on speed dial. I said, do you realize that he is a 30-year PGA Tour player, and you got him on speed dial? Yeah, but it's just Jay. I mean, it's not Mr. Delsing. It's just, Jay can get out there and help me. I said, okay, well, just give Jay a call, I guess.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so she won that. I'm very proud of her.
Congratulations.
Wow,
You should be proud.
Thank
Papa.
you. Yeah,
absolutely. Coming up next, we've got the fight here on 101 ESPN. Matthew, do we need a fighter on this Friday?
Yeah, we need a fighter on this Friday. You won, I think, in I think it was the extra time yesterday. The bonus question. I'm blanking on what the actual terminology is right now.
No, I beat up the kids yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, you beat up kids. That was mean.
He's very proud of it too.
Kind of peacocked a little bit afterwards. Yeah. Uh-oh. Dan, the machine's going.
No, turn it off. We need to go to break. It's 8:33.
Oh, no. Randy. No.
Oh, so just text in, and maybe Matthew will pick you to fight me next on 101 ESPN. '94 in St. Louis today, 96 tomorrow. It'll be 96 on Monday, too. So the heat is here. And if you haven't had your air conditioner checked out by Hoffman Brothers yet, you need to. Call Hoffman Brothers or text them at 314-664-3011 to set up your appointment. Or you can hop online at hoffmanbros.com. It's an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. And their friendly and knowledgeable techs are going to come out and make sure that your air conditioner is good to go for the summer months, because there's nothing worse than having your air conditioner go out in St. Louis during the summer months, right? So make sure that you get that all taken care of, and they will make sure that you are cool and comfortable for the summer. That's what they're all about at Hoffman Brothers, is making sure that your family is comfortable for the summer and for the winter when it gets cold. And if you've run out of hot water faster than usual, or if you have lower water pressure than usual, well, you can also use Hoffman Brothers to take care of your water heater. They do electrical, they do plumbing, they do all the stuff at the Carricker household that needs to be done. You should use them as well. Hoffman Brothers, online at hoffmanbros.com. Give them a call or send them a text at 314-664-3011. Hoffman Brothers, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals take the Rickwood game against the Giants 6-5, technically starting a 3-game series. They're going to be off today before they finish off games 2 and 3 of their series against the Giants on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. Last night in the start, Andre Palante, 5 and a third innings pitched, 7 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and a home run allowed. Cardinals again back in action this weekend. Also in action this weekend in St. Louis at City Park. St. Louis City is back in action again Saturday night, 7:30 start, facing off against Atlanta FC. That is your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Rocky here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter today is Brett. Brett, how are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I could hear you when Rockio called. I could hear you. I could hear the excitement, and now I'm hearing the excitement once again. You're ready to face Randy this Friday, huh?
Yeah, I got my son with me.
I want to be in a water.
What's his name?
His name is Elliot.
Hi, Elliot.
Hi.
Hi. All right, Brett and Elliot, are you ready to face Randy in the fight?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. We'll get started with question number 1. Last night, the Cardinals wore jerseys commemorating the St. Louis Stars. Prior to being called the Stars, the team shared the same name as which National League club? Is it the Reds, the Giants, or the Robins?
Let's go the Robins.
Following his 14-loss campaign in 2007, the Cardinals traded Anthony Reyes at the 2008 deadline to which American League team? Was it the Minnesota Twins, the Texas Rangers, or the Cleveland Indians?
Let's go the Twins.
All right. Final answer there, Brett and Elliot?
Yes.
Okay, good job. Here's question 3.
The only home runs that Pujols hit across the 2011 World Series were his 3 in Game 3. Who was the other Cardinal hitter who homered 3 times in that series? Is it Lance Berkman, David Freese, or Alan Craig?
What year was this?
2011.
Let's go Berkman.
Okay, and who was the only Cardinals pitcher to win a game in both the 1985 and 1987 World Series? Was it John Tudor, Bob Forsch, or Danny Cox?
Bob Forsch.
Okay, tell Elliot to give Brett a little trouble. How do you guys feel you did this?
Today?
Yeah, he's going to have to give you a little trouble. It's going to be tough. Let's see how Randy does in the fight.
I actually used to coach your son in soccer.
Is that right? Which one?
Luke.
Well, thanks for coaching him.
He had an amazing goal. He scored from almost half field during a game. Last second, hit off the crossbar, hit off the goalie's back, and went in.
I remember that goal.
Tied a game.
Well, thanks for being his coach. I appreciate it. He better have been respectful to you.
Oh, he was.
All right, good. Well, thank you, Coach Brett. You have a guy that, Randy, first of all, say good morning to Brett.
Good morning, Coach Brett. How you doing?
So
I'm good, and you?
Great, thanks.
We have found out he has coached my son.
Uh-huh.
He's excited to face you in the fight.
Right.
And his son, Elliot, is with him helping in this competition.
Good morning, Brett and Elliot. All right. So,
Good morning.
good morning, Elliot. Awesome.
You ready for question number 1, Randy?
I'm ready.
Last night, the Cardinals wore jerseys commemorating the St. Louis Stars. Prior to being called the Stars, the team shared the same name as which National League club?
I believe they were the Giants, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go with the Giants. Gigantes.
Following his 14-loss campaign in 2007, the Cardinals traded Anthony Reyes at the 2008 deadline to which American League team?
Anthony Reyes at the 2008 deadline. It just feels White Soxy. Who did we get in 08? Dan, I think I'm going to go with the White Sox just because it's top of mind. It just popped into my head, White Sox. But I have no idea who we would have gotten in that trade. But I'll say White Sox.
You know why I bet you went White Sox?
Why?
You're thinking of the game in 07 in which he had a one-hitter, maybe until Jim Tomei hit that home run down the right field line.
Yeah.
When Anthony Reyes' name pops up, I think White Sox. All right, White Sox it is.
Okay, we'll do it.
All right.
Ready for 3?
Yeah.
The only home runs that Pujols hit across the 2011 World Series were his 3 in Game 3.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the other Cardinal hitter who homered 3 times in that series?
2011 World Series. Who hit 3 home runs? I am going to utilize the name. Did Alan Craig hit 3? He may have. Holiday got hurt in 2011, so he didn't even play Game 7. I don't think Matt was that hot. It wasn't Yanye. I don't think Berkman hit 3. Well, 2011, he hit 3. Did Freese hit 3? He was the World Series MVP. I guess I'll go with I'll go with David Freese.
Oh, it's my turn. Yeah. Sorry, Randy. You're supposed to say, come on, Daniel, let's go.
Daniel, let's go.
All right, question 4. You ready?
Ready.
All right. Who was the only Cardinals pitcher to win a game in both the 1985 and 1987 World Series?
Well, let's see. John Tudor was with both teams. Danny Cox was with both teams. I'll do the lifeline here just in case.
Well, you got 2 of them. John Tudor, Bob Forsch, or Danny Cox?
Let's see. Forschy. We would have won at home. So let me... Tudor would have pitched on the road exclusively. I'm going to go with Forschy because I'm thinking in 1987, we won 3 games and they were all here. And Danny pitched in relief. Danny could have. No, I'm going to. This should be a lot easier than it is. I think I'll go with Danny.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All right. Matthew, do your thing, please.
This is a very, very close fight, but we do have an outright winner. No need for the tiebreaker today. Does Randy Carricker, for the second day in a row, vanquish a fighter with their child playing, Randy? Or
the word choice there.
Go Elliott.
Or do we finally get some justice for the Childrens of St. Louis with a victory here for Brett and Elliott? Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
And he's going to unload it. The children of St. Louis just rattled right now. Just taking L's. And it's summer vacation, too, so they can hear this, Randy. I'm sorry,
they
Brett
like
and
all
Elliott.
the music.
I'm sorry, Brett and Elliott. You fell today to Randy Carricker. It was very well done. I mean, it was a very, very tough fight today. Randy Carricker only beat you by 1. He beat you 1-0.
Well, I beat Randy I hit a jack last time I played him a few years ago.
There you go. Yeah, just keep rolling with that one. Let's go to the questions and answers. This was a tricky one today. Last night, the Cardinals wore jerseys commemorating the St. Louis Stars. Prior to being called the Stars, they were, in fact, called the St. Louis Giants. Good job, Randy. That was the one we got correct today. Following the 14-loss campaign in 2007, the Cardinals traded Anthony Reyes at the deadline to the Cleveland Indians. Only home runs that Pujols hit across the 2011 World Series were his 3 in Game 3. The other Cardinal who homered 3 times in that series was, in fact, fact, Alan Craig. And the only Cardinals pitcher to win a game in both the 1985 and 1987 World Series was John Tudor. Randy, he won 2 in 1985, and then him, Danny Cox, and Bob Forsch each won a game against the Twins. So we have 3 of the 4 pitchers who won games in those 2 World Series for the Cardinals. Who won the other game in 1985? Just Tudor won 2 of them.
1985. Tudor won 2, and Danny did not win because he lost Game 6. Did Joaquin win one?
Ken Daly.
Oh, okay.
Ken Daly got the other win
He
in
was our best player during that
1985.
postseason.
So the 4 wins for the Cardinals, the pitchers were John Tudor, Bob Forsch, Danny Cox, and then Ken Daly. So a 1-0 win for Randy Carricker in the fight today. Brett and Elliot, thank you so much for joining the fight, and thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Brett.
Elliot and Brett.
Overthought. I knew Alan Craig. I should have just stuck with that.
408 says, that a boy, Randy. No participation trophies allowed.
Dan, I was worried about which one you were going to read there.
I know. There's a couple others that are. Yeah.
There's a couple others that we can't. No, Randy.
No, you can't read
No,
them.
Randy. We have to get to Jeremy Rutherford.
Okay, let's
He's
do that.
coming up next. Yeah.
101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Brooke Grimsley here for your Redbird Report. In Birmingham, Alabama last night, the Cardinals beat the Giants 6-5 in the Negro League's tribute game at Rickwood Field. Alabama native Brendan Donovan had 3 hits, including a 2-run homer. Andre Palante pitched into the 6th inning. He gave up a game-tying 3-run homer in the 3rd, then left 2 runners on base in the 6th and was charged with those 2 runs after both runs scored while Andrew Kittredge was on the mound. Adam Kloffenstein worked a 1-2-3 8th inning in his major league debut. Ryan Helsley allowed a leadoff walk and a 2-out single in the 9th before nailing down his 25th consecutive save, setting a franchise record. The Cardinals and Giants will have the day off today before resuming the series on Saturday at Busch Stadium. Miles Michaelis will be set to oppose former Cardinal Jordan Hicks.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hey, you can have a great lunch today at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Their menu is absolutely fantastic. If you're in the mood for a great burger, they have great burgers there. They have wonderful salads and wraps if you want something a little bit cooler. And, of course, you have to start with the best trash wings that you'll ever have at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Stop by tomorrow night if you like country music. Ricky Cole is going to be at the Fenton Bar and Grill. You can learn more by going to FentonBarandGrill.com or checking out their Facebook page. But tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Fenton Bar and Grill, Ricky Cole, an up-and-coming superstar, is going to be performing, and you will absolutely love it. And by the way, while you're there, you can enjoy some of their hard-working lager at Fenton Bar and Grill. It's their own beer, and you can enjoy some of the great spirits and the best bartenders in town. They have such a fantastic staff. Both Kellys, say hi to Megan, say hi to Casey. The whole group there is absolutely fun and absolutely wonderful. You'll love the service at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Learn more by going to FentonBarandGrill.com, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park. And when you go, tell them Randy sent you.
contractor.
Welcome back to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. Brooke, Dan, and Randy, and we head to the celebrity line, and our Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, joins us. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, and congratulations, Brooke. Haven't had a chance to say that to you on your wedding, and I want to wish you many years. Celebrated number 21, wedding anniversary number 21 the other day. My wife and I woke up in bed and said, happy anniversary, 21 years, and I said, it only feels like 15 minutes underwater.
Oh.
Well done.
Jeremy. Well, I guess. Okay, outside of that, do you have any marriage advice for me?
I think I'll save that for Uncle Randy. He's better at that stuff.
So, actually, my advice is for David, and that is that Brooke is always right. Even when she's wrong, she's right.
Yes.
That's the best. If I do have one bit of advice, it would be out on the road with an NHL team for most of that 21 years.
All right, JR, let's talk. You have a great piece about how Alexander Steen worked his way up to being the Blues' next general manager. I want you to go back to when Doug Armstrong knew that this is a guy that could potentially be that guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that when they hired Alexander Steen last June and they announced that his title was European Player Development Consultant, I remember looking at that email, shaking my head, going, "Not do what?" Like, this guy just drips hockey. I guess this is one way to get him back in the organization, especially because he was based in Europe, living back in Sweden. So that was a chance to get his feet wet. Randy, in the last year, he's been a part of meetings. He's been a part of scouting players for the Blues. And the part, to answer your question, that touched me in terms of when Doug Armstrong knew is he said that I made several trips to Europe in the last year, and each time I would meet up with Alex, and the more I talked to him, the more I just knew that he was cut out for this role. So, because they've had the 3 first-round draft picks last year, because they're really focusing on the future, a lot of trips to Europe were made by Doug Armstrong, and you have any personal time with Alexander Steen, I think it's just obvious that this is what he's meant to do.
JR, I know they talked to you last week about Buchnevich, but is there any updates on how you think that the Blues are approaching this offseason?
No, but it's no updates, but it's an interesting situation, especially after what Doug Armstrong said last week. He said that I'm going to talk to Buchnevich's camp, which is agent Todd Diamond, and tell him about what I think the next 2 years look like, and then Alex will explain to him the vision beyond that. So that's the situation the Blues are going to be in with this GM and waiting arrangement. And I think this is going to be, I don't want to say difficult, because, Doug and Alex are going to have constant communication and talk and try to be on the same page as much as possible. But even Doug admitted last week that sometimes they're not going to be in lockstep on where they see things. So, not saying that this is the situation, but what if Doug would love to have Pavel Buchnevich the next 2 years, but it just doesn't make sense term-wise for Alex beyond that. I think those are the crossroads that they're going to encounter when they have these types of discussions.
Jeremy, how about the role of Brian Elliott moving forward?
Yeah, Moose, yeah. I texted him a couple days ago. We're going to catch up and have a conversation and have a story at The Athletic, probably after the draft coming up next week. That's kind of what's taking over the headlines here. But hopefully a chance soon to talk to Brian Elliott. But the one text he did say he just felt like it was going to be a great fit. I go back to when Brian Elliott came to St. Louis, guys. He was on a 2-way deal making less than $1 million. And what did he play, another 8-9 years in the league? I mean, that is just phenomenal. And the one thing that I want to talk to him about, and hopefully we can have in the article, is what makes a good goaltending coach. Like, he's going to be in charge of the prospects. He's going to go out and look at just the guys that are available in the draft and help the Blues. And I want to know, you can have a good goaltender who played a long time in the NHL, but what does he go out and see in a young goaltender that can help the organization when it goes to pick at the draft or decide whether to promote a guy once he's within the organization? So hopefully we can address some of that with Moose too.
JR, last year, Doug Armstrong was on the verge of being able to pull off a splash move if they would have been able to get Sanheim, if Krug would have agreed to the deal. That would have been a splash trade. Scale of 1 to 10, the odds of the Blues making a splash move like that this offseason?
Well, I thought it was interesting. Yesterday, the Blues put out a tweet and it said, hey, next week is the draft, but that's also a big window for trades. Or the Blues foreshadowing something that could happen next week. Also, guys, last year, when they signed Scott Prnovich to a one-year contract, it was the next day that the news broke about the Torrey Krug potential trade to Philadelphia that, of course, didn't happen. What happened a couple days ago? Scott Prnovich signed a contract, another one-year deal. So is something coming? They do have their 7 defensemen, but I just can't see Doug Armstrong sticking with the same defense as they head into the season. So, 1 to 10, what's the probability of a trade happen? It seems like every time you think there's something going to happen, it doesn't. But I would say pretty high this offseason, Randy. I would think that, a 7 would probably put it at a good number in terms of what we could expect to see this next weekend.
What's the strength of the draft overall, JR? And then if the Blues do not move up or move down, what direction do they need to go in terms of trying to supplant maybe some of the weaknesses that they have in their organization?
Yeah, Dan, so I don't think it's one of the deeper drafts. Doug Armstrong had an interesting comment the other day, though. He said he probably feels like a lot of general managers that if you have the 10th pick, there are 9 great players. If you have the 16th pick, there are 15 great players. And I think that's the situation a little bit this year because I've done a couple mock drafts with the athletic staff, and I've picked for the Blues at number 16, and it does feel like come 12, 13, that's when most of the elite / above average players fall off the board. So if the Blues want to, I think there's going to be an opportunity to trade up into perhaps like the number 10 area. I think New Jersey picks around there, and they've said that they'd be willing to move their pick, but at what cost? The one thing is I think the Blues need more defensemen in their system, young defensive prospects, and this draft is a little deeper at defense. I think you can find a really good one at 10, 12, 13, 14, potentially even when the Blues draft at 16, but they're going to have to wait and see how that unfolds.
Jeremy Rutherford, as always, quality information. We appreciate it. We advise everybody to subscribe to The Athletic and read your quality information there. Thanks so much for the time, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Thank you. That is Jeremy Rutherford, our Blues insider from The Athletic. Next up, we're going to hear the Reggie Jackson interview last night on Fox as we bring you the Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN.
Shop Macy's and save big with our lowest prices of the season. Like 40 to 60% off shoes, handbags, and accessories for any occasion. And bras, pajamas, and more essentials. And get your backyard ready for summer hosting with 20 to 60% off outdoor furniture you need now. Plus, download the app for even more lowest prices of the season today at Macy's. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
No one knows the importance of a great assist more than Lowe's and Leo Messi. That's why we've teamed up to give MVP's Pro Rewards members 10 times the points when Messi makes an assist during CONMEBOL Copa America USA 2024. Activate this offer starting June 20th, so when Messi assists, you score. Shop the day after an assist to earn those extra points. Not an MVP's Pro Rewards member? Join today.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
At Onder Law, we deliver big judgments for the little guy. We've negotiated over $5 billion in settlements. Onder Law takes on the biggest industries and holds them accountable. We've won millions for victims of truck accidents, drunk driving crashes, and workers' compensation. Call Onder Law, 314 or 618-9-million. That's 314 or 618-9, all zeros.
Hey, it's Randy, and when it comes time to sell your home, you need a reliable, experienced, and trusted real estate agent. Take it from me and get to know St. Louis real estate expert Gloria Liu with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Here's why you should call, because Gloria already has buyers for your home. She's able to guarantee the sale of your home in writing because Gloria already has buyers in place. Thousands of ready buyers from over 20 years in an exclusive database that are looking to buy in your neighborhood and in your price range. That's how Gloria gets you the most money and and creates the highest demand, many times with multiple offers, and that means more money in your pocket. Gloria Lou isn't your average agent. She's St. Louis local real estate authority with 20 years of experience, hundreds of homes sold in just the past 12 months, and the only agent I'd trust to sell my home. Here's your next step. To get started, call Gloria Lou at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. As always, Gloria and seller must agree on price and possession date. To learn more, visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
The world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is now right at your fingertips here in Illinois. Hi, I'm Derek Stevens. I'm a lifelong sports bettor, and I'm the owner of Circus Sports. We're excited about launching our Circus Sports app in Illinois. It's sports betting the way it should be, with high betting limits, tight money line splits, exceptional customer service, and more. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Start betting like a pro from anywhere in Illinois.
Everybody knows you've got to get it at Clement. Clement Ford presents things you probably don't know. Number 1, the first person convicted of speeding was going 8 miles per hour. And number 2, people that want to pay more for their new Ford, shop elsewhere. People that want to pay less, shop Clement Ford.
Hey, Dad, what was your first summer job?
I was bussing tables.
I hope that paid better than my first summer job.
What job?
Being a radio talent.
Oh, boy.
ClementFord.com.
Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on one. We're recapping the biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a rush hour reset.
The Cardinals with a very rare Friday off after playing last night in Birmingham, coming home today, and will take on the San Francisco Giants tomorrow and Sunday. Cardinals win last night 6-5 over the Giants in the Rickwood Field game, and last night before the game, one of the people that was interviewed was Reggie Jackson, the Hall of Famer, Mr. October, who started his professional career in Birmingham and was part of the panel on Fox. And this is the way that interview unfolded.
Fortunately, I had a manager and I had players on the team that helped me get through it. But I wouldn't wish it on anybody. People said to me today, I spoke, and they said, you think you're a better person? You think you won when you played here in Concord? I said, you know, I would never want to do it again. I walked into restaurants and they would point at me and said, can't eat here. I would go to a hotel and they say, then can't stay here. We went to Charlie Finley's country club for a welcome home dinner and they pointed me out with the N-word. He can't come in here. Finley marched the whole team out. Had it not been for Raleigh Fingers, Johnny McNamara, Dave Duncan, Joe and Sharon Rudy, I slept on their couch 3-4 nights a week for about a month and a half. Finally, they were threatened that they would burn our apartment complex down unless I got out. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. The year I came here, Bull Connor was the sheriff the year before. And they took minor league baseball out of here because in 1963, the Klan murdered 4 black girls, children, in 11, 12, 14 years old at a church here and never got indicted. They were from the clan. Life magazine did a story on them like they were being honored. Had it not been for a white manager and Rudy, Fingers, and Duncan, and Lee Myers, I would have never made it. I was too physically violent. I was ready to physically fight some. I'd have got killed here because I'd have beat someone's ass, and you'd have saw me in an oak tree somewhere.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's gut-wrenching. It's from the heart. It's in the moment. And I was watching the pregame show, and I was kind of walking around, and I was doing that. And when the minute that he started talking, I stopped. And I would imagine that was the reaction across the country when he popped up on your TV and you listened to that.
It was such a powerful message and powerful story. And that's what I was saying, too, with Bill Greason, Reggie Jackson. We're so lucky that we're able to hear the stories directly from them. Somebody texted in earlier, and I thought this is a great point. Reading the books is one thing, but to actually hear that person tell their own story with their own words, the emotion behind it, that is something that really hits a lot of people. And that was just such a great presentation they did yesterday by Major League Baseball, the Cardinals and Giants, everything. I mean, from the beginning of the game to the end, it was powerful the entire time.
And we've heard the stories about Jackie Robinson and about Henry Aaron and Reggie Jackson and Bob Gibson. It took a lot of restraint for those men to not lash out and respond to what was happening to them. To, like Reggie Jackson said, I could have wound up beating somebody's butt. And that's really, I can't imagine how difficult that must do when you're being attacked like that on a regular basis.
emceed a lot of nights. We called them evenings with the Cardinals, and Bob Gibson was on a couple of those that I did, and it was very similar to, it reminded me, listening to Reggie Jackson, of the stories that Bob Gibson would tell during that night. It was an intimate setting. This happened to be on national television with Reggie Jackson, but still as impactful as any is. To Brooks' point, it's one thing to read about it, but when you hear it come from their mouths, it's impactful. It really is.
And this is something that happened almost 60 years ago, and it's still so fresh in his mind.
Yep. It's hard to listen to. It's hard. I'm glad we listened to it, but it's hard to listen to someone having to go through that for sure. So, and by the way, someone's asking, is the Dave Duncan, or the Duncan you referred to, is that the Cardinals' Dave Duncan? The answer is yes.
It is.
Yep, that's Dave Duncan, who played with the Oakland A's and played with Reggie, and obviously was a longtime coach here in St. Louis.
And won a couple of World Series with those A's teams in the 70s.
Yep.
That's Dan, that's Brooke, I'm Randy. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, Willie Mays passed away before they had the opportunity to honor him last night. What can we do to honor the living legends that we have in our country? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and this year we decided it was time to make a major upgrade to our home by updating our bathroom. We have this house in U City. It's over 100 years old, and we love it, but we never exactly loved our main bathroom. So we decided it was time to make a big change, and we reached out to one of our great sponsors here of 101 ESPN, and that is EMB Granite. EMB Granite's team visited our house for a free consultation, and they came up with a vision of how to really transform our bathroom. My favorite part of working with EMB Granite was stopping by their amazing showroom to explore their large selection of in-stock custom countertops, all of their cabinet options. Jen was the one who has been working with us, and she is fantastic. She came up with so many great ideas that really fit within our budget, and I'm happy to report that our bathroom is done, and it looks incredible, and that's because of EMB Granite. They've been doing that for over 20 years, turning visions into realities. So schedule your free consultation by calling 314-645-9300 or go online at embgranite.com or stop by their showroom today and make sure you mention that I sent you.
I think it's a great idea that baseball at least is going to consider having Willie Mays as their logo. Jerry West, who just passed away, was the logo for the NBA. The NBA's MVP trophy is named the Michael Jordan Trophy. Their clutch player of the year is called the Jerry West Trophy. Their defensive player of the year is the Hakeem Olajuwon Trophy. They also have the John Havlicek Trophy for the sixth man of the year in the NBA. I think they do a magnificent job. Heck, the NHL has retired number 99 for the entire league. I think overall sports does a really good job of honoring those that are still with us, whether it's on a national level like that or the Cardinals Hall of Fame recognizing the best that we've had. Do you think that we do a good enough job in recognizing the people that are the history of the game?
I think so in a lot of ways, especially the ways that you mentioned there. But I'm thinking about last night specifically with what we saw, what baseball did to really highlight and pay tribute to the Negro Leagues, which is something that was really needed. And they did such a good job of that. I mean, that was a huge event. Of course, it was about a baseball game as well, but it was mostly about the history, everything that you learned throughout it. I would like to see more leagues do things like that. How do you guys feel about that?
I would look at maybe May 6th of every year where every team would wear a Negro Leagues baseball uniform and call it Willie Mays Day. That was his birthday, Willie Mays Day, around Major League Baseball, and maybe every team, whether or not a team played in that particular city, there's got to be some connection to just about every town in America with a Negro Leagues affiliation of some sort. Maybe it's a grandfather that played for the team or whatever. You know what I mean? There's got to be something with the team that you come up with, or the closest team that was near a big league city, but most of them did have some type of affiliation. So I would do like a Willie Mays Day around Major League Baseball. I think that's something that they would look at too.
I think one of the problems that the NFL has is that they don't really appreciate those who helped build the league into what it is. And the league in the 1960s, 1970s wasn't close to what it is now. I do think the NFL, like last night, could do a good job of, and maybe you do it on a Monday night, maybe you do it on a Sunday night before the games, but honor those who helped build the league into what it is.
They do a lot now for the military, which I love to see. I think they do a lot for that. And then some of the events that come up within the time frame of the schedule that are celebrated, not just league-wide, but worldwide, or at least among our nation. But I'm with you. I don't hear a lot about the former players all that much, unless you're watching some type of retrospective on a player or a team, but you don't have a specific day that's carved out for an individual.
Right, or even a group. They have a player that delivers the Lombardi Trophy to the Super Bowl champions, but it's one person every year. Maybe it would be a good idea in the dog days, sometime, and I know they do their breast cancer awareness month, but they could do a thing in October or November where they honor those. How much was Dick Butkus honored by the NFL before he passed away? Where you honor those guys who helped build the league for you. Jim Brown, another one of those examples that I think the NFL could do, especially with the issues that they have, because those players feel unappreciated anyway. I think it'd be a smart thing for the NFL to show their appreciation for those players.
That would be my one thing, is just kind of looking back in the past, those players that really helped pave the way. And that's what was so beautiful about yesterday with what Major League Baseball did. What about Kenny Washington with the NFL?
Yeah.
Highlighting him, doing more about his history and how he really changed things for the NFL and really broke down barriers.
And the Rams, and there were two franchises, the Rams and the Cleveland Browns, that really they were cutting edge and set the stage for what the NFL is now by bringing African-American players into the league.
I don't know if you could do this because of how the numbers are used strategically in the game of football, but to my knowledge, no league-wide number has been retired. Correct. You know, I don't know if you could do that just because every number has a significance to the position you play, which would make it a little bit tougher, I guess, to do that. But if there was one that would be retired, I'm not sure which direction you go. There'd probably be a few that come to mind, but that'd be something to think about, too, league-wide retirement of certain numbers.
Yeah, and the problem is that I would, and I thought about this, it's a great thought, but it seems like all of the NFL's best players have been in the last 25 years.
Seems that way.
Right?
Yeah.
You've got Brady, you've got Rice, you've got Emmitt Smith or Walter Payton, and Walter Payton's already honored with Man of the Year. You had Lawrence Taylor, you had Reggie White, you had Aaron Donald, Rod Woodson, Deion Sanders. It seems like most of the real greats in the NFL, and part of this is because of the rules changes that have allowed offense to become what it has, but it seems like they're in the last 25, 30 years.
Would you look at Jim Brown?
I think it...
Just because of the impact he made on social, his social conscience as well.
I think, though, because of his legal issues, I think there might be blowback. I think you need a more pristine, from a legal standpoint, player. Maybe Butkus is that guy.
Walter Payton, you had the Walter Payton Man of the Year, but would you retire that number? I'd maybe look at it just because of his impact made off the field. To even honor him even more.
I think this is a great text from 314. The game last night just reminded me of how historic baseball is compared to other sports. Baseball really is our country's pastime. I know a lot of people say that in a negative way about baseball, but really I think last night highlighted it in a very positive way about how baseball really is a huge part of American history.
Baseball, until the 70s, owned the day. Until the NFL became what it is, baseball was our national sport.
Yeah, and then football came around and became a behemoth, and college football, college sports, you can't overlook that too. College sports and what that has done. I'll even take it further. College baseball and what that's now starting to become, and how it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know if you guys watch the College World Series. I love it. I mean, you looked at that 10 years ago, and I used to do a lot of the super regional games, and they were big for those particular schools, but they were always the schools that you thought would be there that put a premium on investing in their baseball program. And now every school is starting to do that, to where there's money being invested. Not every, but a lot of schools that you wouldn't think about are starting to invest in their baseball programs.
Right. Brooke, to your point, I'm thinking about this as we're going through this. What other sport do we have where somebody says the best player I ever saw, or the best player ever, played in the 50s? Football, basketball, hockey, baseball, soccer. Baseball's the only one. To that point, baseball's history lends itself to players, whether you were Joe DiMaggio in the 30s or 40s, or Shohei Ohtani now, people that are roughly the same size, skinny guys. In the NFL, when Jim Brown was a running back at 235, he was bigger than most of the guards that he was running behind. They were 220, 225. Now, an NFL guard, you can't play unless you're 300. So the players now athletically are better, and numerically they're better. I don't think we can go back and say Johnny Unitas was the best player ever.
I agree. I'm going to go back to college baseball. Kind of interesting. I was looking at the rosters the other day with Florida and Texas A&M. I don't think there was a starting player that was under 6'1".
It's amazing.
And they were all at least 215 pounds. The game is so changed.
I was watching NC State, and they had a reliever that came out in the first or second inning where he had 10 strikeouts. And he's pitching in the ninth and throwing 96.
Yep.
And he's an oft-injured fifth-year senior, and he was dynamic. And I'm thinking, oh, man, this guy's got to be high on the draft lists. And he's a fifth-year senior that probably is not going to get drafted.
Yeah, he's going to be playing in South Dakota in some independent league and hopes to catch on.
Yeah.
I thought one of the cool things about last night, too, is that the dimensions of the field have not changed.
Right.
You know, if you look at the NBA, the advent of the three-point line, NFL, but baseball, the dimensions are still 60 feet 6 inches. The bases are still the same length. Now, the thing that was cool when they talked about the walls being brought in and then the Babe Ruth home run going 300 miles because it caught a train and it didn't get off, for 300 miles or whatever. But that part of it was cool, too, how they showed the dimensions of the field. Rocc is laughing right now. I'm not sure why. Oh,
Probably
not about
just,
us. Okay.
It's a text. No, but to your point, too, I think Kyle Gibson talked about this, but then understanding they also brought this up during the broadcast about the impact that it will have on the community. And I think this is another reason why Major League Baseball should continue these events, because you have what they're doing to the stadiums, renovating, and the additions it makes, but also what that does for the community. And we're talking about growing baseball. That's something that we always talk about with the sport. How can you get kids to really want to join back in? Things like that. And really impacting the communities that you go to, I think, is another big part of it.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though. It's gotten so specialized. Soccer specialized with team travel. If you're going to be really an elite player, baseball is the same way. Basketball, you have the AAU teams. It's just really specialized, and I just look outside. You just don't see a lot of kids playing the game. And it's unfortunate, but you just don't.
Somebody said earlier, it's become too professional with travel ball. And that's what it should be about. Dan, you were talking about when you're younger, you could just go out and play in your backyard, which I know that kids still do. And that's kind of an instrumental part of growing up is, going and playing catch with your father. But at the same time, it's also gotten to the point where it's like, okay, well, now you have this very strict schedule on top of your schoolwork with travel ball. And they're traveling every single weekend. My cousin has 3 boys, and they all play baseball and hockey, which, she has no time whatsoever. She's running them around, and I'm sure you guys understand this as well. It's just so expensive, and then it puts too much pressure, especially on a young kid, where it should be the emphasis is about the sport and having fun rather than all of that other stuff that comes with it.
Well, and the other part of this is that even Major League Baseball players prefer to play video games than to play their sport.
That up. Yeah, the video games are everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of kids are doing.
Yeah.
They get ready for that isolated practice that they're going to have, and instead of going out in the backyard, they're on a video game. I think this is interesting. We kind of talked about this off the air. The 314 says, what does last night do for Barry Bonds' legacy? I don't know if it's his legacy, but what does it do now that he's back on an MLB broadcast? In watching it, I felt different. I felt a little differently about him. Not to take away with all the innuendo around him, but does it lessen things a little bit that he was a part of this and you saw maybe a little different side of him? Maybe for fans. It's not going to help with the writers. Maybe
there's the problem.
He's out of the Hall of Fame.
I don't think the writers reflect the general feeling among baseball fans and the public. Most of the people I talk to think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But I think the writers want to be this gatekeeper and refuse to look at everything. They look at all due respect to Randy Johnson, who starts throwing harder when they're 38 years old, right? And he pitched till he was 44. Everybody says, I think everybody on that A's team is under suspicion. And that would include a guy who played effectively till he was 42 and played until he was 44 in Rickey Henderson. How can we say, I think he should be under suspicion? I'm not saying he did or didn't, but how can the writers suspect Bonds, Clemens, whomever, keep McGuire admitted, but Bonds and Clemens were pretty vehement in saying that they weren't. Why do we suspect certain guys, yet we're willing to put Bagwell and Biggio, or Bagwell and Piazza in the Hall of Fame?
That's why I'm putting them all in.
Me too.
I'm putting them all in.
I think so, too. I think that you just kind of have, it's the steroid era, right? Yeah. And maybe you put that little asterisk on there where people can understand the history when we're talking about history and learning things, where you kind of educate people more on the history of what was going on during that time, because he definitely wasn't the only player that was a part of that, but he was also a big part of history. Even if you are doing substances, you still have to be able able to go out and do what he did. And that's just pure talent.
Right.
Did you feel differently, though, to the original point of watching Bonds? Take the Hall of Fame out of it and the steroid stuff. Did you feel differently about him after watching last night at all?
Yeah.
I did too, a little bit.
Well, but
it softened it for me.
He made an effort to be a Richard. He really did over the course of his career.
Yes, he did. And I saw it firsthand.
So did I. And so he didn't seem like that last night.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I think it may have surprised a little fans, some of the fans, a little bit with how he acted, how he behaved.
Yeah.
You know, he was on his best behavior, I guess, Randall.
That's good. And maybe he's just grown and matured and softened a little bit.
I wonder, and Major League Baseball had him back as a hitting coach.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. I mean, he was back in the game after he played. He was a hitting coach with Miami, which a lot of people forgot.
Yeah, and you can be a great hitting coach. You can be the best hitting coach. Well, you can be the best hitter of all time. You can be a pretty good hitting coach. Doesn't mean you're going to be able to make Dexter Fowler hit.
I saw him. No.
Why did Fowler have to catch a stray?
I saw Barry do a exhibition down in Miami. I was at the ballpark early, and he was talking to season ticket holders. It was incredible watching him do his. I mean, you talk about a guy that knows hitting.
Yeah.
These guys know hitting, man. And it's just, but when you're the best hitter in the game or the best home run hitter, sometimes it doesn't translate to Dexter Fowler or Randy or Brooke or Dan. No. It just doesn't. It just doesn't.
That's Dan. That's Brooke. Sorry, Barry. Or sorry, Dexter, I guess.
Oh, yes. Say sorry to Dexter.
Yeah. Next up, this according to Matthew Rocchio, Steve Sarkisian is a blanking buffoon. We'll tell you why next on 101 ESPN. Hey, attention, business owners and CEOs and CFOs. Here's something you don't want to miss. Next Thursday, June 27th at the Union Station Hotel downtown, Business Grows Here, the business event of the year in St. Louis. And it's an opportunity for you to learn how to better grow your business. You're going to learn from a half dozen speakers, and those include Jamie Simonov, the founder of Ring Video Doorbell. Everybody here is going to leave you with actionable strategies and tips that you can apply to your business. Take notes and learn about what's going on in the business world and how you can spin your business forward. And you can change the way you look at business today. Apply to attend the business event of the year. It's NetSuite's Business Grows Here. It happens Thursday, June 27th, and it'll be a day well spent at the Union Station Hotel. Free to attend if you qualify. Apply today to find out if you do. While seats are still available, go online to netsuite.com/Missouri. That's NetSuite, NETSUITE.com/Missouri.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and I want to tell you why I love the Missouri Athletic Club. It's because they're really helping me stick to my big goals for this year. One of my big goals was to get into better shape. I work out twice a week with Christine, and she's my personal trainer over at the West location, and I always look forward to it. I've noticed huge results. Also, the other reason is because I'm getting back into the sport that I played my entire life, and that is tennis. It's been so great working out with Scott over there, and it's also helped my pickleball game, which I greatly appreciate. And they always provide such a wonderful experience. That's why I love my MAC.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals are off today. Yesterday, they won the Rickwood Field game 6-5 over the Giants. They will continue the series with games 2 and 3 on Saturday and Sunday. In St. Louis this weekend at City Park, it's St. Louis City SC hosting Atlanta FC. That's a 7:30 kickoff for that game. And also over the weekend, tonight, I should say, the NHL Stanley Cup Finals Game 6 as Edmonton tries to force a very unlikely Game 7. Florida and Edmonton, you can catch the game right here on 101 ESPN. Pregame starts at 6:30. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
There's a word that I love. It's disingenuous. And disingenuous, according to dictionary.com, means lacking in frankness, candor, or sincerity, falsely or hypocritically ingenuous, insincere. I guess right now, if you go to dictionary.com and you put in the word disingenuous, Steve Sarkisian's picture shows up next to it. Steve, a little bit disingenuous in talking to Joel Klatt on the Joel Klatt podcast about NIL and the transfer portal and everything that goes along with that.
If you lead with NIL to get a young man to come to your school, then a year from now, what's he going to ask about first? NIL. And so our kind of perspective on this and our approach to this is we've got an amazing product here. The history and tradition of Texas football is second to none. The education, the quality of education at UT is incredible. The coaching staff we have, the development of our players, the city of Austin, all these things that we're talking about, that's why I want you to come to the University of Texas. NIL doesn't come up. That should be the last reason to choose to go to a school, whether it's Texas or any other school. Because if you take players predicated off of NIL, that you want them so bad that you're willing to go to whatever length and whatever degree to get that kid from an NIL perspective, of course that's what he's going to talk about the very next year when you bring him into your office. And so we try to create a culture that is a little bit different that way.
That is Steve Sarkisian being disingenuous. And my follow-up...
He is so full of it, man.
My follow-up would have been, if I were Joel Klatt, would have been, how did Ryan Wingo wind up as a member of the Texas Longhorns?
Yeah. How did you get your contract?
Yeah.
That's the other. I mean, so then I guess the coaches shouldn't be jumping. They shouldn't be getting paid the money that they get paid. It's so hypocritical. It's ridiculous.
And by the way, they just signed, I believe, a 4-star quarterback, Bell, to a $9.2 million NIL deal. But can I present this to you guys maybe a little bit differently, okay?
Sure, Brooke.
So, of course, the message and the messenger. Are you ready? Okay. So, of course, the message and the messenger is not great in this situation for obvious reasons, and it's Texas. I am not a Texas fan, as you guys know, horns down, so I'm not defending him whatsoever. But is he necessarily wrong in what he's saying? Because overall fit, player development, and playing time opportunities still matter, even in the NIL era.
They matter to the school and maybe to the coaches, but not to the players. Like Nick Saban said when he quit, the reason before Congress, he said, we always used to have players over at our house for a breakfast, potential recruits, and we would talk to them about becoming better men and leaders. And Miss Terry came up to him this year after they did, and she said, what are we doing here? And he said, what are you talking about? And she said, all they talk about is money. All they talk about is NIL money. And it struck him, it's not about becoming a better person. It's not even becoming about being a champion or being an NFL player. It's about what can I get right now? And that's what all the players are asking for. I had a coach tell me that a player's dad called him and said, hey, I can deliver my son to you if you'll give him starters money. And the coach said, well, I can't give him starters money because I can't promise that he's going to be a starter. But the dad is calling, and that's the first thing that he's asking about.
Do you blame him?
No,
I don't either. It's hypocritical because if you said to this individual, say you had some 5-star recruit and he's got a chance to go to Texas or go to Miami, and Miami says we got $1 million, Texas says $500,000. Where do you think he's going to go? You go where the money is.
Right. Especially if you're from the inner city. If you're an East St. Louis football player and you've had to wonder where you're going to get your next meal, and your family
100%.
has, and your housing situation has been bad, and you've been in a crime-ridden area, I don't want to. There's a lot of areas like that. East St. Louis is just one that's near us. But how can you not want to improve the lot of your family?
He's so full of it in that statement. I mean, how can you possibly say that?
And again, what Klatt could have done is point, because they were in like the auditorium. He could have pointed him in like, well, 2 weeks ago, not literally 2 weeks ago, outside there, when you guys brought in a group of recruits, you guys lined up a half dozen Lamborghinis to walk your recruits past. And when you convinced Isaiah Bond to leave Kalen DeBoer's Washington squad, because Kalen DeBoer left, to come to Texas, he showed up to Austin in a Lamborghini, and after he signed with you, he walked out with a Ford Bronco. So I understand. Sure, you don't want it to be the front-facing thing, but it is literally the most forward-facing thing of your organization over the last month, 2 months, 6 months.
Well, I look at like the athletic department, not even the head coaches. That would be my number one thing. I'm not worried about scheduling. I'm not worried about who my next coach would be. I'm worried about where my next dollar's coming from to pay kids.
Yes, I think that's the thing, is that we are in the NIL era, and then you add the transfer portal to that as well. That's another layer to this conversation of, they can even go in your situation that you presented with Miami and Texas. Maybe the money is less in Texas, but you go to Miami, who knows, maybe you're there for a year or two, then transfer your final years maybe to Texas if you're thinking about the NFL. And the thing is that coming from him, it's hilarious, because we just talked about that money that this quarterback is going to get in NIL deals, like nearly $10 million. I mean, Texas just has an insane amount of money that they pour into their college sports. But at the same time, do you guys kind of hate the conversation around NIL in this way, where it is kind of scaring off some of the great coaches like Nick Saban because of what has happened with college?
It's free agency, and it's the reality now, and you have to embrace it. And Eli Drinkwitz has totally embraced it. That's where I'm at. He's enjoying both sides of it. Yeah,
this
is what
is
it is
now.
Yeah,
you know, you got to deal with it.
Yeah,
and if you don't like it, get out.
Yeah. By the way, this, I guess, is a jaded view. I don't think. Here's my perception. I don't think school has anything to do with this. Are players really going to school?
I've been wondering
That's
that too.
another point. Yeah.
Like, how are they getting the grades?
Yeah.
I mean, they are professional athletes.
Yeah.
It's a minor league system getting ready to go play pro football.
Right.
So, are you going to school?
Yeah. So
I guess you take classes online if you want, and they figure out a way to give you a grade. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how it works.
That's probably it. Take something quick online, or have somebody take a quick one for you online. It's just, it's worth $30,000 for that person.
I never want to hear about an eligibility issue.
I don't either, no.
No. And the GPA probably doesn't matter as much anymore. So now you think with young players, when they're looking at schools, when they're doing the rankings, is it NIL, and then it's fit and possibly NFL development, and then after that, how successful the program is? Or how do you think the ranking system goes with the majority of players? If we could ask the college football players right now.
Right, because Brady Cook's family is going to be a little bit different, right, than most. But yeah, I would say for the average player, it probably is, because money equals respect. So the player is going to think, okay, this is a school that offered me the most money, therefore this is a school that respects me the most.
I would say it's money first, and then, for generally speaking, if not for like 75% of them, I'd say money first, and then NFL ready.
Yep.
You know, can you make me an NFL player? Can I go play for Nick Saban? He's going to make me an NFL star, or an NFL player, I should just say. Then that would be the two things for me.
And at some point, when you have a $9.2 million player at Texas, if Texas is in the 12-team playoff and somebody's already determined to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, they're going to forego the playoff. I don't think winning is going to be a big factor here either.
That's been one of my concerns, is you can expand the playoffs, but at that point in time, I guess still because games mean something, the kids will stay on the field. But at that point, you've already built up, 10 weeks worth of tape?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do I really need to play in this?
Everybody knows by then.
Exactly. Do you get criticized, though, for stepping away? I wouldn't criticize that individual.
Christian McCaffrey did it.
I mean, I'd step away. Certainly for a meaningless bowl game, I wouldn't play in it. But if I'm a player, do I play in the college football playoff? I think they would want to, but I bet they get some advice for some of them to say, don't do it.
Right, or get a huge insurance policy.
Yes.
For the 3 and 4, and this is a great point, the athletes are playing the sport they play to make money. Why would they not take that money as soon as possible? The coaches are coaching to make money. We all have bills to pay, which is fair, because how few players, I know that we see the NFL draft every single year, but how few players actually make it in the NFL, staying in the NFL? The average career, I believe, in the NFL currently is 3.5 years. So that money is not guaranteed. And how many stories have we seen of college players who were supposed to be big and then end up not doing much in college, and then they're not going to make mony after that in the NFL, or even make it to the NFL?
We can all agree that the players should be getting paid as much as they can, right?
Take the money as much as you get.
Yeah. If my kid were headed to college, I would say follow the money.
Period.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing to me that, like, when we send off like non-athletes to college, it's like, hey, you're an adult now, go get a job and do adult things. But athletes, it's like, we're going to treat you with kid gloves for the next 3 years because you are a special thing, and we don't want you to be, and we don't want you to make any money, and you're not going off into the real world yet. We're controlling everything you do. It's the weirdest thing we do to college athletes. I've never understood it.
And the reality is, though, it is a job.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying.
The whole point.
And treating them, trying to teach them like that, it hasn't been a job this entire time, has been the laughable part of it from the NCAA.
But then we don't teach them how to handle millions of dollars when they enter the pros either. Now at least they have an idea as to how to handle $1 million. That's a good thing.
That's a great point, Randy. I wonder if, like the NFL has a symposium or whatever it is when they bring in the rookies.
It's gone. The rookie symposium is gone now.
Right. I wonder if college needs to implement that at each school, to have somebody that oversees. Maybe they have a couple roles with NIL, but one of the NIL things is, let's teach you how to budget properly, or how to save your money, how to build up the money, how to build up equity in this. I mean, all that stuff. Yeah. That's a good point.
Jeff Fisher is a scoundrel. He lied about the Rams moving. But one good thing he did was, before every rookie could sign his rookie contract, he made them go through a financial responsibility course.
Sure. That's smart to do.
I think that's really important, because that was my biggest concern with NIL when it started, is there's going to be opportunists. We know that it happens all the time. We hear those horror stories of, not just in football in general. We know the NFL stories. We know all the different ones that have happened. But in sports, where people who make a lot of money, somebody is an opportunist, they come in and they take advantage of the situation. Either their manager, even family members will take advantage of athletes and the money that they're making. And that was my big concern with NIL, is the opportunists who will come in and try to take advantage.
I don't know if this is opportunist, but I'm going to take a minute, and I know we got to get to a break. I heard the reason that the Rocc hasn't been to St. Louis for a Battlehawks game is because he has 20 people on his payroll, and it costs him $5 million a day to travel. He's got chefs, he's got personal trainers, he's got publicists, he's got attorneys, he's got 20 people, and to get them to travel with food and lodging and being on the private plane and everything that goes in to being The Rock, it costs $5 million a day to move him from one place to another.
But I see him everywhere. He's in a lot of movies.
Well, he's
still traveling.
Yeah.
That movie's paying him.
Yeah,
That's
the movie.
true.
He injured an ankle making his current movie, so that he couldn't come to one of our games. He
Is
couldn't
that
come
why
to
it
the
was?
championship game. Yeah, he was making a movie and injured an ankle. He's making a movie about being a UFC guy, I think. So anyway,
shoot that thing up and get here, man.
But that was the thing. He didn't want to fly to St. Louis and spend $10 million to be here for a couple of days.
Hey, if Tom
to watch.
Brady can come to St. Louis, then The Rock can come to St. Louis.
Well, and Danny Garcia was here, and Kurt Warner. Well, Kurt Warner was.
She's
watching
been here
since,
several times. Yeah.
So, but anyway, so that's The Rock's excuse if you want to know it.
And that leads
Thank
into
Rock and Roll.
Ooh.
Next on 101
segue
ESPN.
there, Randall.
Change things up with your daily fantasy today with Underdog Fantasy and their newest game, Pick'em Champions. You just pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams. Select higher or lower on the player's stats, and once your entry is ready, you pick your entry fee. You're going to be entering a game alongside other underdogs. As long as you hit your entries, you're walking away with your winnings, just like we did yesterday. And because we walked away yesterday with some winnings thanks to the golf, we're going to keep on rolling with some golf picks. We're going to go lower again with our boy Scotty Scheffler. We're going to go lower than 66 strokes for Scheffler, and we're going to go lower than 68 strokes for Ricky Fowler. And right now, if you log on to Underdog Fantasy, they have a little bonus putting up for the WNBA. So I'm going to add again to my entry with a little Caitlin Clark higher than 0.5 points. So I'm going to try to win me some money this week, and you can do the exact same thing. Underdog is super easy to play and even easier to get started. You just go to their easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use in your first pick'em entry and a deposit offer. You take those first 2 golf picks, you can add your mystery special pick, and you're going to up your odds just like that. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC, to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present to stay where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play. Co-editor and gambler. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
It is time for Rock and Roll here on 101 ESPN. Matthew, what do you got for us?
Contrary to what some of the texters might say, I try not to lie too much on this show.
Not too much.
Not too much. And I've mentioned a name, the potential new St. Louis City player, and got confirmed yesterday. So Marcel Hartl is coming to City on July 18th.
And he had been traded earlier from the Sharks to the Golden Knights, right?
Oh, no.
It's hockey.
Is that Thomas Hertl you're saying?
Oh.
Or Tomas Hertl, I should say.
Never mind.
Marcel Hartl is an attacking midfielder from Germany. So they now have 3 players that are coming over on July 18th, which obviously does nothing for them this weekend. But they have 3 players coming over on July 18th. This was confirmed from Manuel Veth over at Transfer Market yesterday afternoon. And it was also confirmed that they had to pay $350,000 in general allocation money to Columbus Crew for the discovery rights, because the MLS has this thing where if you're a team, you can just call dibs on a player who doesn't play for you, and if another team wants to sign him, they have to pay you to sign him.
Pay you?
Mm-hmm, because you called dibs on the player.
I like that.
And so
it's
right now,
like a fantasy league.
So right now, St. Louis has dibs on Josh Sargent. So if Josh Sargent doesn't want to come back home, some other team will have to pay City to actually be able to sign him.
Do you just send a text? Dibs.
I'm sure there's actually a system of like a memo through the league office. The paperwork gets finalized and so on and so forth. I'm sure it's actually not as stupid as I want to make it sound, but you cannot pay me enough money to stop referring to discovery rights in the MLS as simply a team calling dibs on a player, because it's the dumbest thing in the world, and the MLS needs to be made fun of for their stupid roster rules. And so therefore I'm going to walk around on radio and say you can call dibs on a player in MLS, and therefore other teams can't sign him unless they pay you for it. It's the dumbest rule in the world, and the league should be roundly mocked for it.
No, I like the dibs idea. It's very
Dibs
childlike.
mine.
Yeah.
Imagine the Cardinals were like, "Hey, I'm sorry, Los Angeles. We actually called dibs on Shohei Ohtani. You're gonna have to give us like $50 million for it. My bad."
Yeah.
Oops. Oh, how'd that happen? Anyway, it's a dumb rule, but anyhow, City will have a new player coming in on July 18th, and City is playing Atlanta FC on Saturday. And I'll tell you this right now, I'm not feeling good about the game, Randy.
Uh-oh, why not?
Is there any reason for me to be confident in City right now?
Oh, they don't score. They don't win. Even when they win, they draw. No, you're right.
7 games without a win for them so far. 3 games without a goal scored. The last time they scored was, as Danny said the other day, almost a month ago. At the very beginning of the month when they faced off a 3-3 match against Inter Miami. So you're going to have to score some goals to actually win. And I'm just not feeling very confident they're going to do it right now.
Is this team going to make the playoffs?
That we did get a text earlier. Somebody said it kind of feels like at this point St. Louis City's out of the playoff race. They're 6 points out of the 9th spot. The way the MLS playoffs work, it's the top 9 teams technically make the playoffs, because 9 and 8 then have a playoff for the 8th spot. So you're 6 points behind the 9th spot, which is technically 2 games because 3 points per game. So you're not out of it yet. You certainly can make a run for it, but I mean,
Once we get the new guys go on a roll.
Yeah, but you're going to lock in 3 or 4 more. You're going to lock in 3 more league games before that, I think. And then and here's the thing: we just talked about acclimation with Bradley Wright Phillips on Wednesday. Fine, they can get here on July 18th. They can start practicing with the team on July 18th. But when are they actually going to be able to play full games?
True. When does Mbappe start?
Oh, Randy.
With City?
Yeah.
2042.
Oh,
Never.
darn it.
Somebody from the
How old
314.
would that make him?
2042, what is it, 2024 this year? That would be 18 years from now. He would be 44. He's 25, so he'd be 43.
Oh, he'll still be really
Somebody
good.
was mad that I called him 26 yesterday, and they're like, hey, he's 25.
Oh, okay. From the 314, what's next? Calling shotgun? I like that idea. If we could put City SC in front. Shotgun.
An awesome job
They need
today.
a no gives back rule, too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. By the way, Monday morning show, I got to tell you guys, we're at Whitmore Country Club for the Folds of Honor Golf Tournament. We'll be broadcasting live from Whitmore.
I can't wait.
Is that what they call it?
It's going to be fun.
I'm assuming that you guys will be golfing. Or no?
I will be golfing afterwards, yes, but not during the show. I will.
Okay, well, good.
We should tell everyone that Randy is a part of that organization, too. You have a big role in that organization.
Honored to be on the board, yes.
Yep.
Good
stuff.
It's great stuff. So looking forward to that on Monday, and Otherwise, the weekend, I'm going for a bike ride this weekend. I think it's going to be 96 tomorrow, so I'm going to go for a bike ride in the morning.
Do the Oilers force Game 7?
Yes, they do.
I'm going with Panthers and getting it done. Get her done.
Okay. And then the Game 7, if necessary. Would it be Monday night, I believe? Yeah, Monday night. Great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, the one, the only Matthew Rocchio. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes.
Congratulations. Getting back to St. Louis and on the weekend, but congratulations on your wedding and your honeymoon. But it's great to have you back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. Once again, I told you guys yesterday, picking you guys over Croatia any time.
We appreciate
if that's presented to me.
You have issues.
Brooke's going winking into
There's
the camera.
no air quotes around this.
Daniel, you're awesome.
Oh, you're the best, Randall, and pleasure.
Pleasure. We have a balloon party coming up. T-Mac and Ajax, or T-Mac's out next week?
T-Mac's out today. T-Mac might be out.
Is Josh in today?
Next week? Yes, he is.
Oh, the Josh Innes experience coming up for you. And then he'll be followed by our friends BK and Ferrario and Tanner until 2, and then the Fast Lane from 2 to 6. We thank you all for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. So don't just have a great weekend. Have an American weekend.
Bring gas.